Imagine waking up to a beautiful goddess offering you a deal of a lifetime. She greets Makoto with a gentle smile, asking if he will become her believer as a holographic system window pops into existence. Our boy finally opens his eyes to the ultimate isekai trope, the unfamiliar ceiling. He never thought he would actually say those words as he sits up in a daze. This definitely is not a hospital. He looks around the strange, empty room, trying to piece together how he ended up here. One look out the window confirms the impossible. He really did wake up in another world, complete with lush forests and old-fashioned horse-drawn carriages. The dark memories of the accident come flooding back. A ski trip turned into a tragedy when an earthquake triggered an avalanche that buried their entire bus alive. Time to get some real answers. He peeks out the door and follows the faint sound of voices echoing down the hall. The relief is instant when he finds a hall full of his classmates. Before he can even process the scene, his best friend Fujian charges in with a tearful and dramatic greeting. Fujian is a mess of happy tears until he drops a major bombshell. He admits that not everyone from their class survived the trip. The list of missing students is over a dozen long. Our boy's mind flashes back to the bus before the crash, where he was distracted by his handheld game. Even with the bus buried in snow, Makoto refuses to put the game down. The girl beside him is freezing, but he is more focused on finishing his playthrough before they run out of time. He teases her, knowing she secretly wants to play too. He keeps mashing buttons, determined to reach the end of the level. She smiles and makes a promise to play together once they get home. Makoto jokes about her jinxing them, not realizing how much weight those words would eventually carry. Back in the present, asking about the girl from the bus only brings bad news. Realizing that was their final talk, he changes the subject to find out where they actually are. Fujian excitedly confirms they are in a fantasy world. They are currently seeking refuge in the Water Temple, which serves as a shelter for the survivors. Fujian's news of the fantasy world really hits home, and Makoto is already hyping up the animal girls. But there is a bigger question on his mind. Do we have powers? He asks as his bro gives him a confident nod. Makoto is itching to see his stats, fidgeting like a true gamer while Fujian points him in the right direction. He promises to share his info later as his friend salutes him off with a grin. He enters the massive cathedral, the heavy doors creaking behind him as he approaches the altar. The RPG maniac in him is taking over, hoping for some broken combat skills. The head priest greets him as the final otherworlder and asks how he is holding up. Makoto keeps it casual, telling him he is doing alright as a nun watches from the side. Just as they are about to check his skills, Makoto stops the show with a serious question. He needs to know if there is any way back to his old world. The mood shifts instantly when the priest delivers the cold truth. Coming to this world means he actually died in his previous life, and Makoto can only stare in disbelief. The priest asks if he was on the brink of death before he arrived, and Makoto nervously confirms he was. It is a chilling reminder of the accident he barely survived. The priest strikes a dramatic pose, urging Makoto to worship the statue of the silver-haired goddess who saved his life. He claims her pity is the only reason they are all standing here right now. The head priest gets uncomfortably close, reminding him that going back home is basically a death sentence. Makoto can only agree while mentally noting how shady this old man is acting. It is finally time to check his stats, and the priest mentions that unique skills will determine exactly how he survives in this new world. He calls over the nun to start the process while our MC tries to contain his excitement. The priest explains that a simple prayer will engrave his soul book with every bit of his potential. Makoto is vibrating with anticipation, asking what his numbers look like before the ceremony even finishes. A bright light flashes from the paper as his hidden abilities finally come to the surface. The priest checks the results, listing off Calm Mind and low-rank water magic. The priest finishes the list with a weird skill called RPG Player, prompting Makoto to ask if it is any good. He then moves on to the actual stats, noting that besides the mystery skill, everything else is just average. The priest stands in stunned silence before pulling the paper closer for a better look. He and the nun start whispering about a potential mistake, leaving Makoto feeling out of the loop. The priest tries to play it cool, telling our boy not to sweat the low numbers even though he is basically calling him weak. He quickly dumps the rest of the explanation on the nun and gets ready to bail. He literally sprints out of the room while shouting for Makoto to have good luck, which is a massive red flag. Our MC just stands there feeling completely judged by the old man's exit speed. The nun hands over the soul book, explaining that this paper holds all his stats and potential. Makoto stares at the numbers, but without any context, he has no idea if he is cracked or just a scrub. His heart drops the second he reads the fine print at the bottom. It turns out he has a literal expiration date, and he is scheduled to die in exactly 10 years. The nun explains that every person summoned from another world starts with a 10-year timer. Makoto is visibly shaken, realizing his new life is already on a countdown. There are ways to extend his life by donating tons of money or becoming a legendary hero. Since he is currently broke, he realizes he is going to have to start grinding monsters if he wants to survive. He looks at his meager stats again with a newfound sense of urgency. If he does not make these weird skills work, he is going to be gone before he even hits his mid-20s. The soul book breaks down his survival kit, starting with a calm mind skill that stops him from panicking even when he is screaming internally. His water magic is currently just a weak splash, but the weirdest one is called RPG Player, which basically gives him a top-down perspective like he is playing a game. This ability grants him a full 360-degree field of vision. Each skill comes with a personal note from the goddess of fortune, who seems to be having a bit of fun at his expense. Looking at the descriptions, he can tell whoever wrote these was really leaning into the gamer vibe. The nun explains that he gets a year of free training to figure out his future. He asks if she has any solid advice on which job to pick. The nun explains he can train at the temple for a full year without paying a single cent. It all feels so scripted that our boy is convinced he is just talking to an NPC. Fujian suddenly appears and asks how his status check went. Our boy decides he is just going to treat this whole world like a sandbox RPG and try everything. His buddy casually flexes that he has ultra-rank storage and appraisal skills. Makoto is a bit salty about those high ranks but mentions he has one more trick up his sleeve. He shows off his waifu game player skill, which lets him read all dialogue as text and even check the conversation history. Fujian immediately gets the reference. Fujian decides to lean into the merchant life since he is not built for the front lines. Sounds like a solid plan to our boy. Fujian tries to keep things positive, claiming those weird skills might actually be useful. Makoto is not exactly buying it though. Fujian heads out for his own training, leaving Makoto alone with his meager stats. It is starting to feel like he is playing this world on legendary difficulty. From the outside, the temple looks peaceful, but Makoto is already labeling this whole fantasy world a total dud. Soon enough, talent scouts start headhunting the high-tier students. Most of the class gets recruited into elite squads while our MC is left in the dust. While everyone else is busy grinding their magic, Fujian catches a ride with a merchant guild. He promises to stay in touch as he rolls out of town. Staring at his status sheet, Makoto sees he only has 9 years left on the clock. He might be a low-rank mage nobody wants, but it is time to show this world what a true RPG maniac can do. The challenge is set for a 100% completion run of this new world. A full year of preparation passes as the real journey finally kicks off. He heads toward Fujian's town with his stealth and scout skills active. The peaceful walk provides the perfect chance to grind his water magic mastery. Spotting a river along the path, he realizes it is the ideal spot to practice magic without draining his mana reserves. Juggling 5 water balls is no longer a challenge, so he pushes his limits to control 7. Continuous practice is the only way to make up for his lack of raw talent. Experimenting with different shapes helps him refine his control and speed. Every bit of practice brings him closer to mastering the flow of his magic. Even with his teacher's official seal of approval, the reality of his low-rank magic strength weighs heavy. He has the skill, but still lacks the raw power to back it up. A scout skill ping breaks the silence with news of an attack nearby. He switches to stealth and dashes into the woods to investigate the trouble. A group of goblins has cornered a merchant and his horses on a forest road. Watching from a distance, Makoto wonders if he even has the skills to save the poor guy. The merchant is barely holding them off with a tiny knife. His teacher's words about permanent death ring in his head as he remembers how his classmates mocked his low-level magic. Suddenly, a familiar system sound echoes through the woods. A notification window appears right in front of his eyes. He is shocked to see a literal quest prompt asking if he wants to save the merchant. It seems his unique skill has a way of forcing him into action. He stares at the yes and no options while the clock keeps ticking. Realizing he can't call himself a gamer if he runs away, he decides to step up. He reaches out and slams the yes button to confirm his choice. His first official battle encounter has finally begun. He launches his ice arrow magic to draw the attention of the monsters. Frozen shards of water zoom through the air with surprising speed. This is his best chance to get the goblins away from the wagon. The attack hits several targets, and the goblins immediately turn their attention toward him. The merchant cries out for help as the green monsters begin to advance. Makoto knows his magic isn't strong enough for a kill, but the distraction is working perfectly. To keep from panicking, he activates his calm mind skill and cranks it to the limit. All his idle thoughts and fear vanish as the system confirms his focus is at 99%. He is locked in and ready to handle the situation. This unit is the clear leader of the pack. One hit from a tank like that would be an instant game over, so he has to avoid a close-range brawl at all costs. Seeing the monster dagger, he realizes he needs to disarm it immediately. He does not waste a second and lets his ice needle magic fly. The spell is a direct hit to the eyes. The hobgoblin drops his blade in a daze, and Makoto knows this is his only shot to finish it. He secures his very first weapon. Holding the steel in his hand makes the reality of this world finally sink in. He takes a breath and commits to the kill. Stabbing the beast, he pumps freeze magic directly into its veins to end the encounter for good. His mana is basically 0. Checking the map, he sees more red dots closing in, meaning the rest of the pack is coming for revenge. He leads the chase through the woods. The whole squad is on his tail as he races toward the river to turn the tide. He leads the group toward the river and activates his water magic to glide right across the surface. The goblins are too blinded by rage to realize they are charging into a trap. While our boy keeps his footing on top of the lake, the heavy monsters plunge straight into the deep. They realize the mistake too late as they struggle to stay afloat. He does not give them a chance to recover and kicks his magic into high gear with a massive whirlpool. The entire pack is sucked into the center, ending the threat in one clean move. Back at the wagon, the merchant can hardly believe his eyes when he hears the news. He asks about the monsters, and Makoto casually drops that the entire group has been dealt with. The man is so grateful that he pulls out a huge sack of coins as a reward. He is convinced Makoto is a high-level pro and asks him to stick around as an escort for the rest of the trip. Money talks, so our MC accepts the deal and finally introduces himself. A firm handshake seals the contract for his first official escort mission. Later that night, the camp settles down as the merchant gets some much-needed rest. Makoto stays awake on patrol, using his skills to scan the dark woods for any more surprise guests. The adrenaline finally wears off and leaves him drained after that close call. With his calm mind skill sitting at 0, he just collapses by the fire and tries to breathe. It was a messy win, but he is still in one piece. He realizes that surviving this encounter actually extended his lifespan by a few years. Keeping the dagger as a trophy of his first win, he finally lets his guard down. The exhausting day finally catches up to him and he begins to nod off by the fire. Scene transition. The forest vanishes and gets replaced by a white void that feels like a glitch in the Matrix. He is searching for an exit when a voice suddenly echoes through the empty space. It is a weirdly familiar setup for anyone who plays games. A stunning lady appears out of nowhere, surrounded by floating flowers and a holy glow. The vibe shifts instantly when she introduces herself as a goddess. This is definitely a step up from dealing with green monsters in the woods. She admits she has been watching his every move since he arrived. Without waiting for his input, she decides to make him her personal acolyte. The hero business just got a whole lot more official. Flashback to a year ago. Our boy was just a low-rank rookie asking Priestess Sophia for a blessing, but she wasn't impressed by his weak water magic. He gets handed a rejection letter and basically told to get lost. When he tries to plead his case, the local knight tells him to watch his mouth. Sophia just cold shoulders him, saying he needs way more training before she even considers him. The silence says it all. That rejection turned him into a total hater. He decided the whole church and their voice of the goddess stuff was nothing but a scam. Back in the present void, he is still salty thinking about that day. The silver goddess actually vibes with him and says he does not need that other deity anyway. It is a bit creepy that she knows his life story, but he figures that is just standard goddess behavior. He finally stops the awkwardness and asks for her name. The gamer inside him starts calculating the potential gains. If she is a top-tier goddess, he is expecting some massive stat multipliers. She lets out a playful laugh while admitting she is just a minor deity. Most people in this world have probably never even heard of her. Our boy tries to get a name out of her, but she plays it off and says he will find out in time. He takes the hint and decides to just change the subject. He asks if it is even possible to survive as an adventurer with such garbage stats. She immediately reads his mind and points out his obvious lack of confidence. She insists his unique abilities are actually great, even though he thinks they are useless compared to actual combat skills. The mood shifts when she asks if he remembers a few of his old classmates. She stares him down to deliver some grim news. Apparently, those top-tier classmates of his went missing and likely did not make it. They got overconfident with their flashy powers and tried to clear dungeons that were way too high level for them. Their reliance on strong skills ended up being their downfall. She explains that his calm mind skill is actually a massive cheat code for staying grounded and safe. He is still skeptical since he thinks his RPG player skill only changes how he sees things. Goddess breaks down the perks of his RPG skill, explaining how he can map out locations and see in a full 360-degree view. Our boy realizes his supposedly trash tier powers might actually be meta if he uses them right. Makoto hits her with a quick logic check. If she really has been watching his every move since day one, he wants to know why she waited until now to finally slide into his DMs. Temple politics is the main excuse since she did not want to step on the toes of the other deities. She immediately pivots back to the sales pitch, begging him to sign a contract and become her follower before he can even think about it. Serious red flags are going off as the goddess gets more persistent. Makoto knows that in any video game, a deal this good is usually hiding a massive catch in the fine print. The ultimate ghosting technique is his next move. He gives her a casual wave and tells her he will sleep on it before walking away, leaving her completely stunned. Dragged back by his clothes, he finds out she is not letting him leave that easily. He tries to stay cool while processing the fact that he is physically wrestling with a deity most people only hear as a faint voice. Red in the face and shouting, she insists she is the real deal. Looking at her acting like a total child, he starts having some major doubts about her credentials. Even with his mind being an open book, Makoto stays perfectly composed. The goddess tries to regain control of the situation by physically pulling him back to the main topic. She goes into full desperate mode, begging him to sign a contract while getting way too close for comfort. Our boy starts to wonder if this is actually charm magic at work given the literal hearts in her eyes. Boundaries are set as he casually asked for some personal space. She is losing it because her charm is not working, completely ignoring the fact that his passive skills make him a total wall. His secret technique is just being built different, between his third-person RPG view making everything feel like a cutscene and calm mind keeping his pulse at zero. She has zero chance of flustering him. Calling a goddess a cult leader to her face is a bold move, but her desperate tactics are not helping her case. She is so busy trying to read his mind that she does not even realize how suspicious she looks. All divine dignity vanishes as she starts throwing a full-blown toddler tantrum on the floor. It turns out she has not had a single follower in 1,000 years, and she is way too desperate to close this deal. He hits her with the ultimate reality check about her wardrobe choice while she is rolling around on the floor. That finally snaps her out of the meltdown and stops her in her tracks. The goddess is totally desperate, even offering him a peek just to get him to join her cult. Our boy is just standing there processing that crazy sentence. A choice window pops up right in front of him. Seeing how much this means to her, he decides to just roll the dice and hope she does not end up being a total nightmare. Decision made. He reaches out and taps the yes button to finally put an end to the begging. He looks her in the eye and makes it official. She is completely stunned when he actually agrees to become her follower. The tears of joy are real as she leans in to make sure she did not just mishear him. Bro just gives her a simple nod to confirm the deal. She starts jumping around like she just hit the jackpot. Any trace of that divine authority she supposedly had is completely gone. Once she manages to stop bouncing, she asks to see his soul book. He pulls it out and gives it to her so they can finally move on. Makoto realizes he is the first person to join her cult in forever, and she is surprisingly proud of it. She tells him to feel honored since he is officially her #1 believer. He wonders how a literal goddess managed to become this unpopular in the first place. Since the prestige is low, he cuts to the chase and asks if there is any actual loot for joining. Being a minor deity means no instant buffs, which is a huge buzzkill for our boy. She tells him he will have to put in the work with daily prayers if he wants any real perks. To seal the deal, she hands over a divine dagger that looks suspiciously like a ritual cross. It is a gift forged by gods that will never break, though it seems more like a prayer tool than a weapon. She prepares to bounce without giving him any fetch quests, assuming he wants to enjoy the open world vibes. He is actually shocked to get this much freedom right off the bat. Touched by his willingness to help, she decides to give him a single task after all. She points a finger and gets ready to drop her first and only mission. Her only request is for him to focus on getting strong, which feels more like a favor than a command. She floats away with a final reminder that he is the only believer she has left. The goddess makes it clear that failure is not an option before vanishing into the light. Our boy is left alone in the void with a lot to think about. Back in the real world, and that divine encounter was the real deal. The junk dagger from the goblins is now a top-tier mana blade. A quick moment of gratitude to his new patron goddess. He is officially geared up for whatever comes next. Rolling toward the city of water in the merchant carriage. The driver is chatty and expects to make it to the gates by noon. The merchant drops some lore about the priestess princess who runs the nation. She is the ultimate authority in Macallen. The mention of church leadership clearly kills the mood for our boy. He has zero interest in dealing with high-ranking priestesses. Macallen is a massive aquatic city that definitely lives up to the hype. The next stage of the journey starts right here. The escort mission is officially in the books as our boy says his goodbyes to the merchant. He is finally in the city, ready to track down his old classmate Fujian. Finding the shop was not hard since it is the biggest building in the area. Our boy is stunned by how much his friend has leveled up in the real world. It turns out Fujian built a whole empire in just 9 months while our MC was training. He wonders if his buddy has turned into a corporate shark who only cares about networking. Walking through the door, he is greeted by a girl in a full bunny outfit. She asks if he is an adventurer while he stands there trying to process the vibe. A quick memory check confirms that Fujian was always a hardcore fan of waifu games. The dude had a serious thing for girls with animal ears back in the day. The employee is clearly confused by his sudden silence. It is obvious that Fujian is letting his personal tastes run the entire business strategy. He finally snaps out of it and asks if the boss is available. She gets defensive immediately, claiming that all business deals have to go through her first. The girl drops a bombshell and asks if he is actually from another world. Our boy does not even try to hide it and gives her a straight answer. She loses it immediately and bolts to the back to alert the boss. Makoto is left standing in the middle of the shop while she screams about his arrival. The boss finally appears and it is none other than his old friend Fujian. The dude is overflowing with energy and looks genuinely happy to see his buddy again. Makoto can only offer a nervous laugh as he takes in the wild energy of the reunion. It is good to know that some things never change despite the new world. He is clearly relieved that his friend is still the same old guy he remembers. Fujian might be successful now, but he has not started using annoying business buzzwords yet. Cheers to the reunion. Fujian leaves his clerk Nina in charge so the duo can get some food. Leaving the store behind seems risky, but the hunger is real. Fujian is fully committed to the drinking life. He swears the foamy stuff is great for the soul, but Makoto is still staring at it like it is a boss battle. A cold pint after a long day has become the mogul standard. Even with the reassurance, Makoto is still checking for any weird side effects. The waitress arrives just as Fujian starts defending the local manufacturing process. He insists it is top-tier quality and nothing like those sketchy street snacks. The feast hits the table with a heavy slam. This massive pile of meat and carbs is exactly what the doctor ordered. Every bite is a win. Fujian is glowing with pride over his favorite spot, and Makoto finally finds something in this world he actually likes. The mood shifts as they catch up on lost time. Makoto reveals he stayed behind until the very end of the training period, making him the absolute last one to join the world. Our boy casually drops that he took out a whole Goblin pack solo, which usually takes a mid-rank fighter to pull off. He does not seem to think it was a big deal, even though the feat is impressive for a low-level mage. Fujian is totally sold on the hype, praising his friend for being so esteemed. Makoto is already planning his next move, deciding to hit the Adventurers Guild tomorrow to start the real grind. The talk turns to the business empire, but Fujian admits he had to take on some serious debt to get his store running. Makoto respects the hustle from one gamer to another, even if he prefers the adventuring path. Fujian nearly chokes on his drink when Makoto teases him about his bunny girl clerk. He claims she is a superb bodyguard he scouted, but those waifu game habits are clearly showing through. The man stands on business, passionately declaring that animal-eared girls are sacred and not to be defiled. He is a certified catgirl enthusiast, and Makoto can only watch the spectacle with a confused stare. Getting back to the lore, Fujian explains how his journey started at the Franz Trading Company. It is the biggest firm on the continent, and he was right in the middle of it. It was a brutal start with 0 days off and no time for sleep. He basically functioned as a human cargo ship, using his storage skill to haul goods from one country to the next. Fujian eventually went solo after getting a head start from a reliable colleague. He specialized in using his appraisal skill to hunt down rare items and flip them for a big profit. Makoto is impressed that his friend found someone trustworthy in such a cutthroat world. Fujian admits he still feels like he owes that person everything and has not had a chance to pay back the debt. The conversation shifts to the specific power set that made the business empire possible. Storage and appraisal are standard enough, but the waifu game player title is a pretty weird flex. That quirky skill is actually a powerhouse because it keeps a perfect log of every single conversation he has. It made him look like a memory god back when he was just starting out as a rookie clerk. The real secret comes out when he reveals the ultimate evolution of his logging ability. Once the mastery level hit its peak, it granted him the direct ability to read minds. Makoto draws a quick comparison to the goddess, but Fujian tells him to save that talk for another time. He is determined to finish his explanation and stay on track. He demonstrates the power by showing a merchant who acts friendly while thinking something completely different. The skill translates the fake smile into clear text, revealing every shady intention the guy has. Fujian admits that mind reading isn't exactly a secret he shares with just anyone. Makoto asks if he's sure about spilling the tea, but his friend insists there's nobody else he'd rather trust. When asked if the mind reading is a deal breaker, Makoto just takes a casual sip of his drink. He drops a bombshell by mentioning Fujian is actually the second mind reader he's met, which nearly sends his friend into a tailspin. Fujian immediately closes the gap to interrogate him about this mysterious goddess. Makoto keeps it simple, explaining that a dream meeting turned him into her first and only believer. Looking over the status screen, Fujian points out that the deity doesn't even have a listed name. He's starting to get suspicious and straight up asks if our MC accidentally joined a cult. To shift the focus, Makoto places his divine dagger on the table for an inspection. He asks his merchant buddy to use his appraisal skill to see what the blade is actually made of. Makoto starts second-guessing himself as the awkwardness of the goddess situation settles in. He watches his friend prepare for the appraisal with a nervous look. Fujian holds the weapon up to the light and his professional merchant senses go into overdrive. He notes the incredible engravings and mana density, admitting he's never seen this kind of metal in his life. Fujian spots some anti-appraisal magic trying to hide the dagger's secrets. He is not about to let a little security system stop his curiosity. He screams about resistance being futile while shattering the magical seal with a high-level skill. Makoto just watches from the side, wondering why things are getting so theatrical. The hype dies down fast as the results come in. Fujian gets a very serious look and needs to confirm exactly where this weapon came from. The truth comes out and it is a heavy blow. That blade is actually the dagger of the wicked god Noah, and the news has Makoto looking rattled. Realizing he might be worshipping evil incarnate is a lot to take in. At least the shifty goddess finally has a name, even if it comes with a dark reputation. The map comes out as the lore dump begins. Legend says this world has been ruled by 3 different powers throughout history. It started with the creator who built the world, followed by their children known as the Titans. This group ruled for a long stretch of history. The old deities eventually let power go to their heads, treating everyone else like dirt. Eventually, a group called the Sacred Deities had enough and staged a full-scale revolt. This kicked off the Divine War, a brutal clash between the old and the new. When the dust finally settled, the Sacred Deities came out on top, and they have been running the show ever since. The losers were rebranded as wicked gods and locked away, but they have never stopped plotting their return. Fujian wraps up the history lesson and asks Makoto if he still plans to be a believer of a wicked goddess. Fujian then shifts his focus to the dagger, losing his mind over its legendary adamantite build and god-tier stats. Fujian is completely geeking out over the weapon. He claims that calling it special is an insult to how insane the stats actually are. The hype train keeps rolling as he calls it the most powerful blade he has ever seen. This thing is apparently rare enough to be classified as a national relic. Our boy realizes the goddess actually pulled through with a high-tier cheat item. It is finally time for his main character moment, even if it cost him a deal with the devil. His friend is not quite as sold on the new gear since it came from a wicked god. He wants some real answers about her identity and why she is showing her face so early. Makoto tries to summon his goddess for a quick chat, but she is currently ghosting him. Fujian warns him that she might still be eavesdropping on their private business. Deities are way above his pay grade, so Fujian offers a change of subject. He still promises to back his friend up if the goddess situation goes south. The mood gets heavy as Fujian drops some top-secret intel. Rumor has it that the Great Demon Lord is set to revive in 10 years. The word is out that 6 priestesses have foreseen the Great Demon Lord's return. Makoto thinks the summoned heroes are going to have their hands full with this world-saving quest. It is the classic Isekai setup playing out exactly as he expected. Every nation is currently gathering forces to prepare for the upcoming war. This explains why the Water Temple has been overrun with scouts lately. Fujian just smirks when Makoto thanks him for the valuable information. Fujian asks about the plan for the future. Our boy wants to focus on adventuring solo to raise his levels. Fujian offers a spot in a party with him and Nina to go dungeon crawling for rare items. A party sounds safe, but solo training is the move he has been preparing for. He shows off his high water magic mastery while declining the offer. Fujian takes the rejection in stride. Since they aren't teaming up, the focus shifts back to the feast in front of them. They raise their mugs for a loud cheers to celebrate the night. It is time to eat the entire place empty. The night winds down as they stroll through the city streets after the meal. Makoto feels guilty about his friend paying for everything. Fujian brushes it off and offers him a place to stay at his mansion. Our boy thinks his friend is being way too generous with all the favors. Fujian says kindness is just part of reuniting with an old pal. Makoto wonders how he will ever pay back this kind of support. Fujian drops some clutch info about the Adventurer Guild offering free rooms for the night. They trade some quick goodbyes before splitting up. Fujian reminds him that the shop door is always open if things get rough. Taking the tip, he heads straight to the Adventurer Guild to secure a free room. One quick check-in later, and he is ready for bed. The snoring in the shared room is a total nightmare, but exhaustion eventually knocks him out. Slipping back into his dreams, he finds himself in the exact same empty void as before. This time, the vibe is way off. The goddess is face down on the ground, begging him for forgiveness. Back in the dream void, our MC finds the goddess face down on the floor and calls her out by her real name, Noah. He wants to know exactly what she thinks she is doing as her ears begin to twitch in fear. He does not pull any punches and asks if she is actually one of those wicked deities he heard about. Noah can only offer a weak confirmation while staying glued to the ground. The vibe is getting beyond awkward, so he tells her to finally raise her head. She is totally spiraling and asks if he is about to quit being her believer. Noah starts panicking and begging him not to give her the silent treatment for her little secret. She claims she just left some parts out, but our boy is calling it exactly what it is, a total scam. She gets defensive about being called an old deity and insists she is actually a younger titan. Even while pouting, she reads his mind and catches him thinking she is cute, which immediately brings back her smug grin. He decides to test her and says he is leaving to let her find a new acolyte. She goes into a full meltdown, explaining that she has been waiting 1,000 years and is way too weak to recruit anyone else from this world. She admits she is desperate since every other survivor already got snatched up by the sacred gods. Makoto just points out that giving him a legendary weapon with her name engraved on it was a pretty careless way to hide her identity. Noah's having a complete meltdown. She insists that any normal person would have missed her little trick, but our boy isn't falling for her lies. She starts breaking down while explaining that the sacred gods were the ones who labeled her as evil. Even if she is a bit of a mess, she never actually lied about being a goddess. Since her divine status is the real deal, he realizes their first encounter was legit after all. He agrees to keep being her believer, which immediately makes her day. He admits that her support actually warmed his heart since nobody else in this world has high hopes for him. He worries it might just be pity since she can read his mind, but then she calls his name. She tells him how much she treasures him and wants him to grow strong at his own pace. It is exactly the kind of genuine encouragement he needed to hear. Our boy ruins the vibe immediately by telling her she was being way too cheesy. She gets super offended, yelling that she put a lot of work into that speech. The situation is so embarrassing that his calm mind skill is the only thing keeping him functional. He tries to pivot back to business by asking for a mission, but she is just confused why he wants orders so badly. Makoto complains that just getting a weapon and leaving is way too anticlimactic for a goddess meeting. He insists he needs a proper mission like a true RPG protagonist. Noah just stares, calling him one strange acolyte. Noah takes a second to think before a light bulb goes off. She admits she is actually locked up for defying the sacred deities and asks if he wants to rescue her. This is exactly what our boy was looking for, and he gets hyped for the classic genre staple. He asks if she is stuck with the other old deities from the legends. Noah explains she is somewhere else since the rest are locked in a place humans could never reach. She claims she is still young and trapped in a separate location that humans might actually be able to find. When he asks where that is, she looks back with a knowing smile. She reveals her prison is the abyssal seafloor temple. It sits at the lowest point of the ocean at the end of a deadly labyrinth. This is one of the top 3 hardest dungeons in the world, and no human has ever survived it. Noah laughs and asks if he wants to quit already. Instead of backing down, his fist clenches as the promise of a challenge only fires him up more. Looking her straight in the eye, he gives her a simple answer. He is going. Our boy sets a major goal for himself. He vows to repay the goddess for her gift by rescuing her from the ocean floor. Noah realizes that her simple present touched him more than she expected. Noah tries to sell him on the perks of being her believer, promising random blessings if he prays every day. MC thinks it sounds exactly like a daily login bonus from a mobile game. Before he can ask more, she tells him it is time to wake up and sends him back. He points out that waiting patiently might be hard since he only has 9 years left to live. She turns up the charm and promises to do anything he wants if he succeeds. He calls out her recklessness one last time as she waves him goodbye from the dream world. Back in the real world, he sits up as the morning sun hits the room. He immediately pulls out his soul book to see if the dream was legit. It is official. His title has been updated to Noah's first believer, and he is just glad the book did not label her as wicked. With a renewed sense of purpose, he hits the streets. He is ready to start his journey for real. His new life as an adventurer in the city of Macallen begins right now. The main goal is to grind enough levels to extend his lifespan and get stronger. He heads to the local guild and is greeted by a cheerful receptionist at the counter. She hands over his new guild card and warns him that it keeps track of every kill to prevent cheating. He takes it with a nod and asks to start a quest right away. She pulls out a few low-level tasks that are safe for a solo rookie like him. Makoto is hunting for a fight, but the receptionist breaks the news that slaying quests are usually for parties. He flips through the solo jobs only to find boring tasks like rodent catching and cargo hauling. He settles on a horned rabbit hunt to get things moving. The clerk adds that there are also standing rewards for reporting any goblins or orcs that might pop up. She leans in with a warning poke, telling him straight up that those monsters are too high level for him to fight. If he sees one, the plan is simple: run for his life. She wishes him luck and calls the next person in line while he heads for the exit. He stays chill, deciding he will just figure out what to do if he actually bumps into an orc. Location jump to the Great Forest. These giant woods are home to natural dungeons and nests of lethal fiends. He checks the info on his target, the horned rabbit. They look harmless, but he reminds himself that even the cute ones are monsters in a habitat this dangerous. He breaks down the local power scaling with a danger level pyramid. Luckily, those rabbits are a rank 0 threat, meaning even our low-level hero has a fighting chance. He spots a group of 3 horned rabbits and immediately fires up his stealth skill. It is time for a quiet approach. Water magic ice arrow. He snipes them from the shadows with a quick spell. The magic did not quite do the job, so he pulls out his dagger to finish the cleanup. He knew his low-level spells would only go so far. Just as he is bagging his loot, his danger sense pings a massive camp nearby. There are 40 red dots on the radar, 10 times more than his last fight. The thick fog is a huge advantage for his scouting and stealth skills. He is seriously considering picking them off one by one instead of retreating. The system hits him with the ultimate RPG prompt. It is like the game is egging him on to fight the entire camp. He locks in the decision and hits yes, no turning back now. Makoto kicks things off by activating his stealth skill. He tracks his targets on the map, then jumps into the fray with a heavy surprise strike on a goblin. Back at the guild, the other adventurers are already on his case. They have dubbed him the Goblin Cleaner and are having a good laugh about his solo mage life. Our boy can only stare into the void while the room erupts in laughter. He is really out here wondering how his epic journey turned into this. 3 months ago, on his very first day, our boy decides to flex on the guild. He turns in a basic rabbit quest but casually mentions dropping 5 extra goblins, leaving the receptionist flabbergasted. The girl begs him not to throw his life away on dangerous hunts, but he just gives her a vague brush off. He thinks it made him look cool and already has plans to go back for more grinding tomorrow. Daily totals start hitting the guild desk like a high scoreboard. Every time he checks back in, the body count just keeps climbing until the staff is stunned. Panic sets in as the receptionist gets in his face, terrified that a secret nest has popped up near the city. He tries to calm her down by explaining he is just picking off stragglers near the Forest of Fiends. She gives him a stern lecture about staying in his lane until he ranks up. At least she is relieved to hear there isn't a full-scale invasion brewing. Everyone thinks he is just a rank chaser, but he is actually playing for time. Each kill adds a few more days to his dwindling lifespan, and he is finally getting the hang of the mechanics. Outskirts are the perfect low-risk grind spot for some quick XP gains. He treats the area like a private dungeon and starts racking up levels at a record pace. As a result, his daily grind turns into a full-scale extermination, officially solidifying his title as the Goblin Cleaner. The local adventurers are already hating from the sidelines. He does his best to ignore the trash talk while they mock his low-level magic and solo play style. Grinding works up a serious appetite. He stops by a food stall to order a skewer platter and a rice ball to recharge after a long day. There are plenty of places to eat around the guild, but this specific spot is his personal favorite. These skewers are loaded with fresh horned rabbit meat from the Great Forest. It is the ultimate comfort food for a tired adventurer. This stall owner was actually the client for his very first quest, and he has been a loyal regular ever since. The chef checks in on today's hunt as he enjoys a perfectly seasoned meal. Makoto reports his latest haul of 22 goblins and 5 horned rabbits. The owner is so stoked she hooks him up with a drink on the house. She wonders why he hasn't moved on to bigger monsters yet. He keeps it real and says he is only at level 14. A veteran adventurer named Lucas stops by after slaying a sand dragon. He greets the kid and orders a cold all to celebrate. He finishes the drink in a single go and lets out a satisfied breath. The grind never stops for the heavy hitters. Lucas is a gold rank beast who doubles as a mentor for the newcomers. He and the owner go way back to their early days in the guild. The pro asks when he is finally going to tackle a dungeon. Makoto insists on grinding until level 20 just to be safe. Lucas is stunned that a rookie would be this patient. Usually people are itching to prove themselves, but our boy is built different. Lucas tries to keep things chill, but Mary is already crashing the party with a massive order for all and veggies. She thanks Makoto for the warm welcome while the veteran tells her to back off. Lucas suggests she find a date in a classier bar, but she's not interested in the luxury life. She has been slammed with monster reports all day and just wants to focus on her next round of drinks. Meet Mary, the guild receptionist who has been a huge help to our boy since he arrived in town. She is a regular at this stall and never misses a chance to unwind with some alcohol after a long shift. She pulls him into a tight hug as a reward for being such a responsible kid. He immediately activates his calm mind skill to keep his composure while being smothered by the guild's idol. Mary is basically an idol at the guild, so this public display of affection is a death sentence for our boy's social life. He can feel the hurtful glares of every jealous adventurer in the room burning into his back. The salt from the other adventurers is reaching critical levels as they throw shade at his magic rank. He tries to defend his innocence, but they are too busy being jealous of his lucky situation. Lucas warns her that she has had enough, but she insists she hasn't even hit her limit yet. It's clear that the night is far from over for this thirsty receptionist. Mary is all over him, praising his hunt like he's a top-tier legend. He's getting the full, good boy, treatment while the rest of the tavern watches in pure jealousy. Turns out Mary is a certified witch when she hits the all. She's got a habit of being way too touchy with the boys, and most of them fall for it the second she makes a move. Our boy thinks he's immune because he handled an actual goddess, but biological warfare is a different beast. One soft landing later and his calm mind skill is the only thing keeping him from short-circuiting. Enter Jean, a novice warrior who thinks he's the main character because he hit bronze rank in record time. He's got zero chill and makes sure to remind Makoto that he's still just a low-level goblin cleaner. Jean is unreasonably salty that Lucas stopped mentoring him to hang out with a weakling. He can't stand seeing a stone rank scrub getting special treatment from a gold rank veteran. Lucas tells the rookie to back off and let the kid breathe. Makoto wants to act tough, but catching a glimpse of Jean's menacing aura makes him reconsider his life choices. Our boy is low-key judging Jean for having 2 girls in his party instead of grinding solo like a real man. He's convinced that a true adventurer doesn't need a harem to get the job done. Jean's party is itching to get moving and start their rank climb. They don't see the point in wasting words on an apprentice mage like our boy. Lucas points them toward a stray ogre quest that just popped up. Jean takes the bait, eager to prove himself with a real challenge. Before heading out, Jean makes sure to lay down the gauntlet. He is determined to hit iron rank first while Makoto stays stuck in the dirt. Back at the food stall, Mary tells him to just ignore the rookie's attitude. Our boy is way too chill to care, planning to just keep grinding at his own pace. He explains his logic of over-leveling before fighting a single boss. For now, he is perfectly happy sticking to his safe goblin routine. Later that evening, he finishes his daily hunt with exactly 20 confirmed kills. He decides to bag some extra rabbit meat for the stall owner before heading home. A massive sound suddenly rocks the forest, putting him on high alert. He immediately drops into stealth, hoping he can sneak away without being spotted. Something is definitely off in the woods. Makoto feels a heavy presence approaching from the shadows. A stray ogre steps out, and it is way bigger than the report suggested. Our boy stays hidden, realizing this beast is on a whole different level. The monster sets its sights on some nearby adventurers, and it turns out to be Jean and his party. They are clearly outmatched by this towering creature. Makoto recalls the golden rule of survival, which says to run when a monster is too strong. He wonders if the rookie party has enough sense to value their lives. The panic sets in as the party realizes they are in trouble. Jean grabs the cleric and starts making a break for it, leaving the others behind. It is a dog-eat-dog world, and Jean chooses to bail with his favorite teammate while leaving the mage to trip and fall. She hits the dirt hard as her leader vanishes into the trees. A system prompt suddenly appears, asking if he wants to step in and save her. Even the goddess thinks he should just walk away, but Makoto cannot help but hesitate. A system prompt starts spamming him with a choice while he is trying to avoid getting flattened. He is officially over the pressure and tells the floating text to back off while he decides his next move. The ground shakes as the beast closes the gap. The mage is trapped, staring up at a nightmare she cannot outrun. The rookie leader has already vanished into the trees, leaving his teammate to face the end alone. She collapses in tears, praying for a miracle that is not coming. Decision made. He steps out of the shadows and slams the ogre with a sharp ice cutter that catches the monster completely off guard. "Get moving," he says, snapping her back to reality. She is stunned by the sudden rescue but knows better than to linger. They make a break for it as the goddess starts screaming in his head about his safety. She is not exactly thrilled that her only follower is playing hero with his life. The monster clutches its wounds while our boy offers a quick apology to the deity he just ignored. Risking it all was not the plan, but he was not about to walk away. Our boy stands his ground with the divine dagger ready for action. He knows it is risky, but he is officially done running and wants to play the hero. Our boy stands his ground but realizes he is in over his head. He is out of mana and facing a giant he has no idea how to take down. The monster is basically a cheat code since its wounds are already closing up. Makoto watches in horror as his best attack gets shrugged off like nothing. The ogre lets out a roar that would make anyone else quit on the spot. Even the goddess is chirping in his ear about how he should have listened to her warnings. He decides to play the bait and gets the beast's attention with a shout. He has got one last trick up his sleeve since the dagger alone is not cutting it. A massive foot comes crashing down, but he barely manages to slide out of the way. He taps into his system and activates his dodge skill just in time to stay in one piece. That was way too close for comfort. He keeps his legs moving as the ground continues to shake from the constant stomping behind him. He manages to maintain a lead, mostly thanks to his calm mind skill keeping him from freezing up. He is betting everything on a strategy he used back when he was dealing with basic goblins. He spots a marsh just ahead, thanking his lucky stars for that mapping skill. Our boy kicks his water magic into gear to walk right on the surface. Thick fog starts rolling in to keep the monster blind to the trap. He takes a steady breath to lock in his focus. Time to play the bait. He shouts a classic taunt to pull the beast exactly where he wants it. The ogre charges right into the trap with heavy stomps shaking the ground. The big guy realizes too late that the floor just disappeared. Makoto flashes a grin as the monster takes a big plunge into the deep end. No mercy here. He uses his flow magic to wrap the beast in a watery grip and drag it down for the final bell. The rescue squad arrives only to find our MC casually cooling off by the shore. They can hardly believe their eyes as the big beast floats lifelessly in the water. He just shrugs it off like it was a routine cleanup job. Jean stares at the massive remains in disbelief. He decides the only move is to drag the head back to the guild as proof of the hunt. Back in town, Lucas is making a scene in front of the crowd. He shouts for everyone to check out the massive head and asks who they think the legend is that slayed it. The rowdy group goes quiet as Lucas builds the hype. He tells them all to listen closely. Lucas throws an arm around a very tired Makoto and announces him as the guild's new rising star. The crowd goes wild, finally dropping the Goblin Cleaner label after hearing the story for the third time tonight. The vibe shifted fast since Lucas originally called a solo hunt on a big ogre a suicide mission. Now he is just laughing it off while the system identifies the beast as a rare species. Potential nicknames like Ogre Killer start flying around the room while some jealous guys complain about Mary having a thing for him. Our boy watches from the sidelines, wishing they would just stop with the labels already. Escaping the noise, he finds his way back to the familiar food stall. The owner greets the new hero of the day as she slides a glass of water his way. Our boy is just trying to cool down his water with some ice magic when a familiar face shows up. The mage he saved earlier asks if she can join him at the table. He realizes she is the same girl from the forest and offers her a seat. Looking closely, he notices her red hair and pointy ears, finally realizing she is an elf. They share a toast as she introduces herself as Lucy and thanks him for saving her life. Makoto just plays it cool, saying the guild rewards and reverence points were more than enough. Lucy is still in shock that a bronze rank took down an ogre solo while he just shrugs it off as luck. He jokes that the fight probably shaved a week off his life and he is definitely done with ogres for now. She admits her high-rank magic is a total mess to control and she is curious about his speed. She looks him in the eye and asks how he manages to fire off spells so fast. When he confirms he skips the long chance, she is completely floored. He explains that his low-power spells would be useless if he had to waste time on incantations. The vibe gets even crazier when he mentions he only started learning magic a year ago. She nearly short-circuits until he drops the reminder that he is from another world. Makoto tries to downplay his role by explaining he is no hero, though he admits some of his classmates definitely are. Lucy listens intently as he mentions the wave of other worlders who arrived a year ago. Most of those people broke the power balance with their cracked skills and now hold top positions across the globe. Our boy is just glad that level of drama is not his problem. Lucy is not hearing any of it and grabs his hand while gushing over how amazing other worlders are. He starts sweating buckets, wondering if she realizes his stats are actually bottom tier. The vibe gets heavy when she looks him in the eye and asks if he wants to form a party. MC turns bright red as he realizes he is still holding her hand. She gets way too close for comfort, making him forget to even activate his calm mind skill. He is internally screaming while trying to keep some distance between them. The awkward moment gets cut short when Jean and his cleric show up to accuse her of defecting. Lucy is not having it and reminds them that they abandoned her in the forest. Jean tries to offer a half-baked apology for his cowardice, but Lucy just hits him with a heavy pout. Makoto can only watch from the sidelines as the leader tries to keep his party from falling apart. Lucas walks in and asks what the big deal is. The girls are in the middle of a drunken quarrel, so Mary tells everyone to give them some space. Lucas turns his attention to Jean. He tells the guy he has got something to say to Makoto. Jean actually bows and thanks Makoto for the rescue. Our MC is stunned, thinking the guy might be more thoughtful than he let on. Lucas then asks Lucy if she is down to form a party with Makoto. She is all over it. Suddenly a system prompt dings to life asking if he wants to add Lucy to the squad. Makoto is just standing there wondering when he signed up for this. He starts overthinking, worried she will be disappointed when she sees how bad his stats really are. He turns the offer down and says he is sticking to solo play. Lucy is completely floored while Mary just laughs at her getting rejected. Lucas tells our boy solo play is basically a death sentence and he needs to know his deal. MC just shrugs it off, saying he likes to keep it slow while Lucy is still in the corner crying her eyes out. The rookies get a look at his card and start roasting him for having the stats of a random civilian. Jean is clowning his weak arms while Emily is losing it over his magic stat being a measly 3. Mary jumps in to pat his head like a child, calling his stats garbage but praising him for being a good little grinder. MC is just standing there wondering if she is actually complimenting him or just being a menace. The vibe flips when Lucas notices the one stat that actually matters. He shouts that MC has level 90 magic mastery, leaving the entire rookie squad speechless. Our MC explains that he spent a year grinding mastery because his mana pool is basically a puddle. Lucy is staring at him with a look of horror, making him think she is being way too rude for no reason. He tells her to go find another party, but she is not letting him walk away that easily. She starts waving her hands and begging, promising she does not care about his stats at all. Lucy drops the big guns, revealing she has got king rank fire magic. MC actually stops to think about it, realizing a rare skill like that might be worth the headache of a party. Mary calls her out for being a notorious nuisance who gets booted from every party in record time. The elf tries to act confident, stuttering that she could join any high-level group she wanted. Lucy admits her track record for staying in a party is pretty bad, but she thinks things would be different with him. Lucas points out that while her magic hits hard, she has zero control over where it goes before leading them away. The redundancy of a double mage party is a nightmare. A duo of an apprentice with bottom-tier stats and a glass cannon with zero aim is about as unbalanced as it gets. Lucy gets right in his face and grabs him by the collar. She begs him to reconsider, promising they can just train together until they are actually competent. That familiar system prompt dings back into existence. He stares at the screen, wondering if the game even cares about his previous rejection, or if the choice is just for show. Even the veterans and the local stall owner are ganging up on him. Everyone thinks he should stop being a loner and give the party thing a shot. It is getting impossible to say no with this much social pressure. This feels like one of those forced party member cutscenes from a video game. Taking the hint, he finally reaches out and taps the yes button on the floating display. A quick bow seals the deal. Makoto officially welcomes Lucy to the squad. Accepting without hesitation, she admits she is just as happy to be there. A handshake under the night sky marks the moment he finally gains his first real partner in this world. A lot has happened since he first dropped into this world with nothing but rock-bottom stats. His skills are considered low-level, and he has been grinding solo just to stay relevant. Realizing he would be dead weight for any normal group, he stuck to the solo life until this very moment. Today is finally different. Lucy greets him with a smile, and he plays it cool like he just arrived at the meetup. The era of the loner mage is officially over as they form their first party. Lucy is hyped to get moving, and the new team vibe is a major upgrade. As they head out, she wonders where the grind is actually happening. He usually hits the Forest of Fiends for goblin hunting since it pays the bills. A half-day walk for some basic goblins seems like a stretch to her when there are closer spots. He tells her not to worry because he has a specific reason for the long trip. The goal is a remote spot where she can let loose with that king-rank magic without any witnesses. She is surprised by his childish side, thinking he was way more aloof than this. Being alone with a pretty girl is starting to get to him. He has to manually crank his calm mind skill to 80% just to stop his brain from short-circuiting. Makoto breaks the ice by asking if she is really an elf. She confirms it, though she seems a bit defensive about her hometown. He mentions he has never seen an elf with red hair before, and the vibe immediately goes into a tailspin. Makoto starts sweating, thinking he just crossed a major line. Lucy admits that she is actually of mixed heritage and not a pure blood. Being the village chief's granddaughter gave her enough leverage to shut down any haters. Makoto is just glad she didn't have a tragic backstory. While he is busy daydreaming about bragging to Fujian about his new elf teammate, he feels a tug on his sleeve. Lucy is on the verge of tears, asking if her mixed blood is an issue. He panics, explaining she is just the first elf he has ever met. She calms down the second she realizes it was just a misunderstanding. They keep walking, but Makoto is realizing that social interaction is way harder than grinding levels. Makoto leads the way straight toward a river, ignoring Lucy's confusion about the path. He tells her not to stress and just keep moving. Starting with a literal flex, he steps onto the river surface using high-level walk-on-water magic. Lucy watches in total disbelief as he ignores the need for any chance. Since she lacks the spell, he tells her to just grab his hand and let him handle the link. She lets out a startled noise as they connect on the open water. Holding her close, he explains that letting go will sever the magic link immediately. Lucy is starting to realize that this commute is about to get intense. They suddenly blast across the water surface like a human speedboat. Lucy can barely process how they are moving this fast without a ship. Just as she gets her bearings, he announces they are going even faster. Her protest is cut short by the sheer force of their acceleration. Back on dry land, Lucy is left panting and leaning against a tree to recover. He gives a casual apology for going a bit too hard on the throttle. Lucy finally catches her breath, impressed by the speed of their travel. She looks around and realizes they have successfully reached the heart of the Forest of Fiends. Our boy casually mentions they are already surrounded by 40 monsters. Lucy loses it immediately, but he points out that the thick fog is the only protection they need. He is ready to see some legendary magic, but Lucy admits her big spells need a 3-minute head start. He decides to head out and clear the immediate area so she can work in peace. The reality of being alone in a monster-infested forest starts to set in for Lucy. She looks for her partner only to hear a distant rustle and a calm voice announcing his first kill. Makoto vanishes into thin air right in front of her eyes. She can only shout her thanks into the mist as he slips away to provide her some cover. A stray goblin tries to get the jump on her, but Makoto is already there to intercept. He tells her not to worry as he uses the fog itself to gag the beast and keep its voice silenced. He ends the threat with a single soundless strike. Lucy can only stare in disbelief at how he turns a deadly ambush into a quiet walk in the park. Lucy is floored by his zero incantation mastery. Our boy is combining fog flow and stealth to make monster hunting look like a clinical operation. He hit her with a casual smile and called the whole thing simple. Lucy had to scream internally because nothing about that master class was basic. 10 goblins down in record time. Makoto tried to play it off as just using gimmicks for his low mana, but Lucy wasn't buying it. With the area cleared, it was finally time for the elf to show off. She let out a nervous gulp, knowing she was finally on the spot. She started her long chant with the weight of her past failures on her shoulders. This was her last shot at finding a partner, so she couldn't afford a single mistake. A giant sphere of flame began to form above them, glowing brighter by the second. Makoto could only watch in awe as the fire grew to an insane size. She finally let it rip and the resulting blast turned the forest into a furnace. Our MC scrambled back, wondering if she was trying to clear the monsters or the entire map. Lucy wipes her forehead with a huge grin, totally satisfied after letting her fire magic rip. She hops around like she just won a trophy, casually wondering if her flames were a bit too spicy for the forest. Our boy stares at the wall of fire consuming the trees and finally asks if it is just him, or if everything is currently burning down. Total chaos mode activates as the duo realizes they just started a massive forest fire and have zero plan. Back at the food stall, the pair looks like they went through a blender as they slump over the counter in defeat. Their day was a complete disaster featuring angry guild receptionists, surprise monster attacks, and a desperate fight to put out the blaze. Lucy tentatively asks if he is holding a grudge, but our MC is just too tired to be mad at this point. Slumped over at the stall, Lucy is stunned that our boy isn't dumping her after the forest fire incident. He keeps it cool, asking why he would even do that on their very first day together. The mood shifts when she casually mentions that massive explosion was actually her weakest move. Makoto just stares into the void, realizing he teamed up with a walking nuke who has zero chill. Her status sheet reveals some top-tier unique skills like King rank Fire Magic and High Wizard. On paper, she should be able to use every element in the book. Lucy admits she spent all her time grinding Fire Magic and ignored everything else. Our MC asks about her Elven elemental skills, but he already has a bad feeling about this. One look at her blank expression confirms his suspicions. She has absolutely no idea how to use anything other than fire. Drawing mana from elementals is way too advanced for someone who can't even handle their own energy. Lucy just lets out a pathetic whine as the reality of her skill issue sinks in. They wrap up the night with a new plan to fix her messy fire magic. The grind starts tomorrow. The training plan is simple. Makoto baits the enemies out and Lucy finishes them off with her high-rank firepower. It sounds great on paper, but her magic has other plans. Her flames constantly split off or fly toward random landmarks instead of the target. Even the monsters are starting to feel bad for her at this point. Things get even sketchier when they almost end up getting incinerated by their own backfire. They are lucky to be alive after that massive blast. They try switching to other elements, but her incantations for those are even slower. The monsters basically have time to take a nap before she finishes her chant. This trial and error mess becomes their new daily routine. It is mostly just Lucy screaming and Makoto wondering when his life became a slapstick comedy. Back at the city, Lucy is losing it over her lack of progress. Makoto just keeps munching on his sandwich and tells her to take it one day at a time. She catches him practicing his own quick cast magic while they eat and takes it as a personal attack. He claims it is just part of the grind, but the timing is definitely suspicious. Lucy gives him some rare props, calling his casting speed godlike compared to any elf. Our boy just keeps it real, reminding her that his actual magic power is still total garbage. He mentions he was hoping her firepower would balance things out, which hits her like a literal physical blow. Makoto has to scramble to apologize when she starts crying, asking about her mastery progress to change the subject. It turns out she only gained 1 point in a whole week, leaving her with a long hill to climb before she can cast without chanting. The salt is real when Makoto casually says he also went up a point, which is basically impossible once you hit level 50. He explains it is just the result of his insane dusk till dawn training grind. Lucy is completely checked out and depressed, leaving our MC wondering how to cheer her up. He is also feeling the burn in his wallet since all this training time has tanked his goblin hunting income. They settle in for a chat where Lucy admits she wants to follow in her mother's footsteps as a mage. When he asks for more details, she gets quiet and asks about his own dreams instead. He realizes she is dodging the topic but goes ahead and reveals his big goal. He is planning to clear the Seafloor Temple, which is basically the hardest dungeon in existence. Makoto reveals his starting goal is the Seafloor Temple, and Lucy is absolutely stunned. He explains that's where his goddess is waiting for him. Lucy corrects him immediately, shouting that people call that place the last dungeon for a reason. Makoto realizes his information might be a bit outdated. She lists some actually reachable legendary spots like the Celestial Tower for immortality or Hell's Gate for weapons. To make matters worse, she explains that nobody even knows if the temple has any good loot. Makoto jokes with Noah about her bad PR, but she just demands some slack since she can't talk to the world. Makoto figures his water magic mastery will help him down there. Lucy quickly kills the mood by mentioning raging tides and a giant sea monster named Leviathan. He ponders if a stealthy approach would work instead. Lucy just stares at him like he's lost his mind. She points out that elementals are everywhere and there is no hiding from them. Our MC finally admits he has no idea what he's doing and needs a new plan. Makoto admits his plan is crazy, but he figures they might as well shoot for the stars. Lucy is impressed, finally catching his vibe. Lucy gets completely fired up and repeats his goal of aiming for the stars. She insists they hit the grindstone again tomorrow, leaving our boy a little overwhelmed. Sharing their goals has clearly made them stronger as a party. They cheer to another day of work, feeling like they might actually make it as a duo. Everything kicked off right after that big dinner. Jean pulls up with an olive branch, trying to squash the beef by offering a team quest with a fat payout. This is not enough to sway Lucy, who is still holding a major grudge after everything that went down. Their mission is a raging bison, a massive monster that stays chill until it sees red and goes on a rampage. Joking about Lucy Fireban is all fun and games, but Makoto worries he will be useless without a water source nearby. Deciding they have done enough training lately, Lucy finally agrees it is time for some real action. That settles it, and the temporary party is officially formed. Official party formation complete. Jean and Emily are joining the squad for this temporary mission. Out on the quest, Lucy spots their target way out in the grass. Makoto and Jean are squinting just to see a speck on the horizon. Lucy points out a fuzzy outline that is supposedly their bison. Makoto decides to use his clairvoyant skill to actually see what they are hunting. Lucy is absolutely living for the praise once they realize how far she can see. Our boy is genuinely impressed by that superior elven vision. She is ready to roast the beast from right here, but the new teammates are not having it. They know her aim is basically non-existent and do not want to blow their cover. Makoto steps up to be the decoy since he is not much of a heavy hitter anyway. He tells a worried Lucy that he is way too slippery for a Bison to catch. Emily drops the battle plan while handing out buffs to the team. Makoto finally gets to feel the vibe of working in a real party. Makoto creeps through the grass with his stealth skill active, whispering for Lucy to start prepping. She gives the signal and begins her incantation. Getting this close makes Makoto realize how massive the monster really is. One wrong move and he is going down like a bowling pin. The Bison suddenly turns and charges, closing the gap way faster than he expected. It is way too close for comfort. Makoto pulls off a clean dodge and starts taunting the beast to keep its eyes on him. Back at the edge of the field, Lucy watches with a growing sense of dread. Disaster strikes when the Bison spots Lucy all red outfit and instantly shifts targets. It is fully locked on and charging straight for her. Panicked by the incoming horns, Lucy screams and fires her fireball way too soon. Makoto tries to stop her, but the magic is already loose. Since the Bison was not in a full charge yet, it easily sidesteps the incoming attack. The fireball sails harmlessly past as the beast stares them down. The situation goes south fast as the Bison locks on and starts its death charge. Makoto screams for Lucy to keep it together and start her next spell, but she just stands there frozen. Just as the horns are about to connect, our boy drops an ice floor spell right under the beast's hooves. The monster goes from a deadly charge to a clumsy slide in less than a second. Jean stares in disbelief that such a weak spell actually worked. Makoto admits that is his only move, leaving the warrior to wonder how someone can have such pathetic mana. Jean steps up and launches a wind blade to keep the pressure on. The hit lands, but it barely leaves a scratch since his damage output at range is garbage. With Lucy still stuck in a long chant, the boys have to improvise. Makoto decides to play bait again and tells Jean to get ready for a sneak attack from the back. He sprints across the grass, waving his arms like a madman to get the monster's attention. One quick use of his dodge skill, and he is dancing around those horns like it is nothing. Our MC gets in close and lands a clean ice cutter right in the Bison's eye. With his mana drained dry, he tags in Jean to finish the job. Jean steps up with a heavy shield tackle to pin the beast in place. Our boy is impressed by the warrior's moves. The cleric shouts that the big guns are ready. Makoto gives Lucy the green light to let it rip. Lucy drops a fireball right on the monster's head. She is left gasping for air as the flames settle. The beast is down for the count and smoking. Lucy celebrates the win while the cleric is stunned by that raw power. Jean tries to play it cool while the boys trade respect, but he definitely did his part. Over by the kill, Lucy is already drooling and wondering if they can snack on the monster. The team is finally vibing until Makoto brings up Lucy's initial fail. Suddenly, his danger sense skill goes haywire. Our MC tells the team to brace themselves because something way worse than an ogre is closing in. The rest of the party is confused, but his alarm siren is screaming. Lucy spots something in the air and screams for the team to look up. A massive shadow circles the party, sending a chill down everyone's spine as they realize this is not a drill. A griffin slams down from the sky with a screech that practically shatters the atmosphere. The system identifies it as a Class 3 high-danger threat, making their previous battle look like child's play. A legendary monster just dropped in to ruin the day for everyone. This griffin is basically the silver medalist of fantasy threats right after dragons. Back in the real world, our MC actually used to think these things were pretty cool while gaming. He had a soft spot for them being strong mid-game bosses. Of course, that usually ended with a fat game over screen. Seeing one in real life is a much bigger problem than just losing a save file. Everyone starts losing it and books it for the hills. Jean screams that it is probably here for the meat, but our boy is just wondering why they are hitting a mid-game boss this early. The bird starts tearing into their hard-earned bison meat immediately. Lucy is mourning the loss of their loot, but Makoto knows they cannot take this thing and tells them to bail. Things take a sharp turn when the monster stops eating and locks eyes with them. Our MC realizes something is wrong when he follows its line of sight. The beast takes flight and charges straight for them. It turns out Lucy is a magnet for high-level monsters because of her massive mana pool. Makoto grabs Lucy and throws them out of the way as the griffin's talons rip through the air. Fighting is the only option left. The bird keeps coming with zero chill, screeching as it dives again and again. Makoto manages another narrow escape, but Lucy takes a hit in the chaos. Claws catch Makoto on the arm, leaving a bloody trail. He checks if Lucy can chant on the move, but a 3-minute timer is a huge ask in the middle of a dogfight. The predator pulls up for another pass while the clock keeps ticking. Attempting high-level spells while playing tag with a monster is basically a death sentence. Steel-sharp talons whistle past his head, missing by a hair. It is a game of inches at this point. Jean draws his blade, but hitting a target that refuses to land is impossible. The beast is dialing in its aim with every single swoop. Suddenly the mana in the air starts vibrating around the monster. It is charging up a heavy attack, and all our boy can do is hope his luck holds out. A wind blast sends him tumbling through the grass as blood drips into the dirt. Things just took a turn for the worse. Struggling to stay upright, he calls out for Lucy. Emily confirms she is alive but severely injured, putting them on the ropes. Jean steps into the spotlight, banging his shield to draw the Griffin eyes. He shouts a challenge to keep the heat off his friends. Holding the line won't last forever, and Makoto knows it. Between his empty mana pool and short reach, their options are vanishing. The open field offers zero cover against a predator circling from above. It is a dead-end scenario with no clear way out. Suddenly, the goddess whispers a cold command into his mind. She wants him to prioritize his own survival, even if it means ditching the team. Choosing between survival and betrayal becomes a brutal reality. He is left weighing his own life against the partners he is about to lose. Makoto stands his ground, refusing to leave his friends behind. He tells the goddess he won't abandon his team. She finally caves but warns him not to get himself killed. Our boy takes a steady breath to lock in. Calm mind hits 99%. He needs a plan that saves the entire crew, not just himself. The rest of the squad is hitting their limit, waiting for a breakthrough. The predator circles above, hunting for its next opening. He looks for any cheap trick to turn the tide. A spark of realization hits. He shouts that he found the answer and bolts straight for Lucy. He closes the distance in a flash, catching her completely off guard. Our boy locks eyes with Lucy and asks if she is finally down to trust his lead. She doesn't hesitate, remembering exactly who saved her life when things went south before. He tells Jean to step up and tank the bird while the mages prep a heavy spell. Jean tells Emily to stand back and starts talking trash to keep the Griffin's focus on his shield. John eats a heavy hit like a boss while Makoto explains the strategy. He tells Lucy to just pump out the mana and let him handle the remote control. He grabs her hands to start the sync, causing a bit of a panic in the heat of battle. There is zero time for awkwardness as the mana starts to flow. A quick flashback reveals where he learned this trick. His teacher once used this exact link to show him how to manage shared energy. It is a high-level move that only opens up once mastery hits 50. Since our boy has the stats, he is ready to turn Lucy into a human cannon. Our boy realizes his endless grind was finally worth something. Even without the right elemental alignment, he decides to bet everything on his sheer mastery level. The plan is simple. He is going to use Lucy as a battery to launch a high-tier fire spell and just hope for the best. As they link up, he realizes Lucy has been holding back a literal storm. The sheer weight of her mana is on a whole different level compared to his own. The system keeps asking if he is sure, but he is already committed. He tells Jean to clear the area immediately before the real fireworks start. A massive firestorm erupts and completely engulfs the sky. The Griffin finally realizes it messed with the wrong party. The spell is holding steady, but the mental strain is intense. He knows one tiny mistake and his focus will blow them both to bits. Seeing the bird try to dodge, he forces the fire to expand and track the target. Lucy can only watch in shock as he rewrites the rules of magic on the fly. Jean leans into a wind blade as the monster starts its final descent. Makoto yells for him to dump every last bit of mana into the strike. The Griffin crashes into the earth with a heavy impact. Everyone is covered in blood and grime, but they manage to pull off the impossible. Emily is totally hyped, making sure John knows he is the MVP of the day. The celebration turns to pure panic once Lucy sees the flames licking at our boy's back. Our boy tries to play it cool until his calm mind skill suddenly hits the off switch, and the reality of his injuries finally crashes down. His world goes pitch black as he loses consciousness. The team can only scream his name while he collapses to the ground. Back in the white void, Makoto realizes his wounds have completely disappeared. He wakes up wondering where he is before the realization of the dream world hits him. He sits up, immediately crediting the healing to his shady yet kind goddess. He starts to call out her name, but the vibe is already shifting. The greeting is cut short when he sees her face. She is absolutely fuming. Noah starts the guilt trip, demanding he recite the very first thing she ever asked of him. Makoto manages a nervous guess about becoming strong. She explodes, screaming that he is her one and only believer and needs to stop trying to die. She tells him he really ought to know his limits. She calls him out for being water-aligned and trying to channel fire magic like a total rookie. Makoto sheepishly admits that the memory of the burn is starting to come back. Panicking about whether he is actually dead, he watches as she points to a screen showing the real world. His cleric is currently fighting for her life to revive him. The scene cuts to the rest of the squad carrying his body while praying he does not kick the bucket. Looking on from the void, he is just relieved everyone is safe. Our boy knows he messed up and apologizes for pushing his luck. Noah keeps it real and tells him those injuries normally would have been the end of him. He is entirely lost as she suddenly pulls out a mysterious paper. She tells him to check it out and has something new in store for him. She reveals the elementaler's skill with a major flex. It hits him that this is the same cracked ability Lucy uses. A rare gift from the goddesses, this skill turns him into a spirit whisperer. He is still trying to figure out the catch while she explains how it works. One legendary side eye from Noah is all it takes to make him panic. She can actually read his mid-thoughts and senses his skepticism. He bows down and promises to use the power with max gratitude. Noah gives him a head pat and tells her believer it is finally time to head back. Before leaving the void, Makoto tries to put in a good word for Lucy as a potential believer. Noah just gives him the signal that his wake-up call is finally here. She explains the fine print of her divine punishment, revealing she can only recruit one new person every decade. It is a slow grind even for a goddess. Noah keeps it lighthearted with a peace sign, telling him he is the only believer she needs anyway. He cannot help but feel she is a little too carefree about her situation. After a quick warning to stay safe in the real world, she disappears with a wave. It is time for our boy to return to the land of the living. He barely has time to open his eyes before Lucy nearly tackles him through the mattress. The elf is a complete mess of tears now that her partner is finally awake. Emily tries to get the emotional elf to back off while Makoto realizes he has only been out for about half a day. Everyone is just relieved the mana sink did not turn his brain to mush. Word of the Griffin kill spreads like wildfire, turning the bronze rank party into local legends overnight. The guild is in a total uproar over a bunch of rookies taking down a class 3 threat. Outside the guild, the party is already in full swing. These adventurers really do not need much of an excuse to start drinking. Inside the quiet infirmary, Lucy refuses to leave the bedside while our boy keeps things casual. Meanwhile, Gene is out there living his best life as the new local hero. Lucy cannot get over how he managed to warp that fire spell during the fight. It was a complete game changer that nobody saw coming. Makoto just brushes it off as the result of his solo grinding. He tries to apologize for the scare, but she is still trying to process his weirdly high skill level. The logic of this world says mana sensing should not be this dangerous. Usually, using a different element does not end with someone nearly burning alive. She starts spiraling and taking all the blame for the near-death experience. In her head, it is her fault for dragging him into the mess. Then she drops a major truth bomb. It turns out her extreme mana issues might have something to do with the demon blood in her veins. Makoto is confused since she looks like a typical elf, but Lucy drops the bomb that her dad was actually a demon. Flashback mode. Her father was a literal demon made of fire, which is why her mana is a walking hazard. Our boy starts wondering about the logistics of a fire demon and an elf having a kid, but Lucy shuts that down fast. Having demon blood means she can drop nukes, but she has zero control and can't even handle weak spells. She looks down, realizing her chaotic mana is exactly what left those nasty burns on his skin. She tries to keep it light, suggesting they just call it quits on the party life before someone else gets cooked. Then the casual mask slips as she asks if he still wants her in his party. He does not even hesitate to keep her around. Lucy is spiraling, blaming her monster attracting aura for his injuries. He just shakes it off, telling her she was helpful and his wounds are on him. She keeps doubling down, wondering if he is only staying because a veteran told him to. Before she can finish her pity party, he cuts her off. Looking her straight in the eyes, he tells her he actually needs her in his party. The sheer honesty is enough to turn her into a literal tomato. Looking back at the moment through his RPG player skill, he realizes just how dramatic that confession actually looked. It is pure cheese. She is fully motivated now, promising not to let him down. Meanwhile, he is sweating buckets because even his goddess is judging him for the theatrical performance. While Lucy works herself to the bone to level up her fire magic, Makoto takes a different approach. He spends the recovery phase essentially living the dream at the guild rest area. Between training sessions, she explains that his new elemental skill requires incantations in a specific language called Elemanti. Our boy realizes he has some homework to do. Finding an elemental magic textbook is basically impossible here. Humans with this skill are as rare as a legendary drop. Back to the grind of poking water drops while Lucy works up the courage to say something. The atmosphere is shifting. Living rent-free in the guild lobby is the only play when your wallet is empty. Our boy is prioritizing his gold over a real bed. Lucy starts acting suspicious while mentioning her allowance and long-term rental. She is clearly leading up to something. Her heart is doing Olympic sprints as she struggles through her sentences. A real room would be way better for his health, right? Just as the invite is about to land, Mary crashes the party with a surprise hug. Pure chaos is the only constant in this town. The mood is ruined, but Mary actually came prepared. She somehow found a textbook for his new elemental skill. Mary explains that scoring this magic book from a distant land was a whole mission, and our boy is treating it like a holy relic. She is just happy to see him this motivated. She heads back to work with a final warning that his new treasure is actually just a guild rental. He is too locked into care and just shouts his thanks across the room. He is so lost in the sauce of potential magic gains that he completely ignores the awkward silence coming from the other side of the table. When he finally snaps back to reality and checks on Lucy, she is already twitching with embarrassment. A frustrated scream echoes through the guild walls as the realization of his social fumble finally hits. Consoling her is going to be a massive project. As soon as Makoto finished healing up, the duo headed back into the woods to grind, but they immediately bumped into a werewolf they were definitely not ready for. One frantic retreat later and both of them are absolutely covered in swamp mud. Lucy refuses to head back to the guild looking like a mess, so she uses Makoto's mapping skill to find a hidden spring for a quick wash. She finds it wild that Makoto is stressed about a weak kobold when he literally just soloed a Griffin, but our boy works in mysterious ways. The peaceful vibes get cut short when a massive thud echoes from the bushes nearby. Turns out Lucy's mana is basically a beacon for every monster in the area, and an ogre just showed up to crash her bath time. Without missing a beat, Makoto steps up and launches an ice cutter spell right into the monster's head, leaving Lucy completely speechless. Makoto finishes the job while the ogre is still twitching, leaving Lucy absolutely floored by how easily he handled it. Still clutching her staff and totally exposed, she can't even process the sudden silence after that monster got deleted. Later on the walk back, Makoto tries to play it cool by claiming he didn't see anything, but Lucy isn't buying his poker face for a second. She's baffled that he runs from kobolds but fights ogres like it's a Tuesday, questioning what kind of weirdo adventurer she's actually partnered with. Lucy pouts as they head home, Loki offended that her birthday suit moment didn't even faze his ironclad focus on grinding. Our boy is basically taking a bath in a canal while studying up on some spirit lore. He is learning that elementals are everywhere, but they are completely invisible unless you know the secret handshake. It turns out the secret to talking to these spirits is an ancient language called Elemanti. This stuff was used by Titans back in the day, so it is definitely not your average weekend study project. Makoto shuts the book and realizes a canal is basically a buffet for water elementals. He is still casually standing on top of the water like it is a solid sidewalk. The book warns that elemental magic can literally change the weather or cause massive floods. Makoto is ready to give it a test run, but someone is already yelling at him to get some rest. Lucy catches him in the act and is not impressed that he is practicing magic while he is supposed to be recovering. She calls him out for casually reading in the middle of a canal like a weirdo. He tries to swear that he is totally healed and fine, but Lucy is not really buying it. He shows her the special book that Mary lent him to try and change the subject. Lucy wonders if he can actually cast anything yet, but Makoto says the pronunciation is a complete nightmare. He tries to say a basic line in the ancient tongue, and even though it sounds like a struggle, Lucy thinks he is actually onto something. Our boy is geeking out over the ancient language and trying to get the pronunciation right. He is realizing that even the simplest commands are a tongue twister in Elemanti. Before he can finish his sentence, a wall of water drops from the sky and douses both of them. They stand there in silence while the water drips off their hair. Lucy is not having it as she struggles with her soaking wet cloak that now weighs a ton. He tries to apologize and promises to fix it, but she is skeptical about how fast he can actually work. He holds up a hand and uses a high-level evaporation spell to dry her off in the blink of an eye. Lucy is staring at him like he is a freak because drying things with water magic makes zero sense. She tells him to stay out of trouble and heads off to take care of her own business. Left alone, Makoto decides it is time to get back to the grind and figure out the mystery. Looking at the puddles at his feet, he is trying to piece together where that flood even came from. That spell definitely did not behave like a normal one. He realizes that amount of water was way beyond his own mana pool. He was not even using the water in the canal, meaning he tapped into a power source he does not fully understand yet. Makoto wonders if he is just borrowing mana from the elementals with a single line of ancient text. Lucy can barely process how he pulled that off so easily, but our boy is already gearing up for round 2. A massive ball of liquid spawns out of thin air as the realization hits that he can now cast anywhere. This new trick lets him manifest water without a nearby source, effectively making him a walking fire hydrant. He is officially entering grind mode to max out his mastery stat while he has the chance. Training whenever and wherever is the ultimate dream for a solo player. The hype train hits a brick wall pretty fast once he sees the actual results. It turns out maxing a stat is not always the massive game changer he expected it to be. Later at the food stall, Lucas is losing his mind over the numbers on that piece of paper. He has never seen a mastery stat hit the level cap of 99 before, and cannot believe a rookie pulled it off. Even with a max stat, he did not get a single power boost to his base attributes. It makes casting feel a bit smoother, but he is still waiting for that big damage spike to happen. Lucas laughs it off and points out that at least Lucy can finally cast her big spells without worrying about the collateral damage. Our MC is basically stuck playing support and acting as a human fire extinguisher for now. Mastery was the one stat he could grind even with his trash mana pool. He can cast faster and with better aim now, but his spells are still barely doing any damage. While Lucy keeps leveling up, Jean and Emily have moved on to a new party of rookies. He watches them head off, realizing it is his own fault for not asking to join them again. The mental exhaustion is finally catching up. He bids Lucy a quick goodnight and trudges off to bed with a heavy cloud of brain fog hanging over him. Lucas tries to reassure a worried Lucy that our boy will bounce back like he always does. She wants to believe it, but she still looks pretty concerned. Back in his room, he checks his stats and sees his lifespan has finally reached 11 years. He flops onto his bed, thinking about how he expected to have way more stars in his eyes by now. Finding out he had bottom-tier stats was a gut punch that knocked the wind out of him. He spent an entire year training just to realize he has not gotten any stronger, but he is still trying to make it work. It is not exactly a life or death problem, but it definitely hurts his pride. Back in the Divine Void, Makoto finds himself bowing to Noah out of pure muscle memory. Honestly, life was getting a bit mid anyway, so he is not even mad about the random teleport. Noah leans in way too close for comfort, putting him on the spot about her actual job description. He tries to stay cool and answers with more confidence than he actually has. After a quick brainstorm, he guesses that being a goddess is all about collecting donations. Noah's not having it and shuts that theory down with a quickness. She aggressively pulls him into a headlock, screaming that her actual job is guiding lost souls like him. Apparently, our boy needs to stop overthinking and just ask for directions. He is blushing like crazy because the divine contact is getting a little too personal. This goddess definitely knows how to play dirty to get her way. Noah is actually offended that he has not been using her as a cheat code more often. He tries to play it off by saying he was just saving her help for a real emergency. Finally caving, he asks if her divine powers can actually make him strong. She is all for it, reminding him that as her only follower, he is basically her priority number one. She pulls a glowing document out of thin air just to flex her divine authority. Apparently, the basic blessings were just a teaser for the real hacks she has in store. With a quick poof, she passes over the paper that proves his stats are broken. Breaking the level cap of 99 is basically unheard of in this world. This goddess knows exactly how to get him motivated by hitting him right in the grinding habit. The ceiling for his water magic just disappeared, giving him a clear path to get stronger. Hearing he can eventually see spirits has him hyped until she mentions the massive catch. He has to keep the fancy language to a minimum, or he will just end up annoying them. All those hours spent studying the ancient tongue feel like a waste of energy now. Turns out the elementals find it disrespectful when anyone but a titan tries to speak their language. Success in magic is about to become a social game instead of just reading textbooks. Making friends with the spirits is the only way to borrow their real power. The grind is officially back on and his motivation is hitting a new peak. Just as he gets ready to lock in, she mentions there is still one more dangerous detail to worry about. Noah admits to hacking his soul book to break the level cap, but there is a major catch. To the church, modifying these records is a serious crime. She warns him about the consequences of getting caught. Makoto can only gulp as the reality of being a divine outlaw starts to sink in. The mental image of being branded a heretic is enough to cause a panic. Apparently, the Holy Inquisition handles rule breakers with fire and crosses. It gets even worse because the local kingdoms actually carry the death penalty for worshipping her. Our boy decides to stay low profile and keep his divine secret hidden. Noah decides it is finally time to wrap things up. She waves him off, complaining about how they are always in such a hurry. Just before she vanishes, she stops him for one last detail. He expects another cryptic riddle, but her vibe shifts to something more serious. Her final command is a direct quest to head for the great maze of Labyrinthos. Makoto is genuinely shocked she gave him a clear objective for once instead of her usual vague hints. Makoto wakes up and immediately apologizes to Lucy for sleeping in, but she was mostly just worried he was dead again. When he mentions his top-secret meeting with the goddess, she is all ears. He drops the news that they are heading to the Great Maze. Lucy immediately knows he is talking about Labyrinthos and gets hyped for a real challenge. Makoto tries to give her an out since she does not follow his goddess, but Lucy is not having it. She is bored of the local weaklings and twirls around him, ready for a change of pace. She gives him a warm smile, genuinely happy to see him back on his feet and acting like himself. Our boy is caught off guard by the wholesome energy. Makoto admits it feels weird having the roles reversed, but Lucy tells him not to sweat it. She promises to always be the one to pick him back up whenever he hits a wall. Meanwhile, Noah is watching her favorite believer with a proud smirk. She is convinced he is destined to become the greatest apostle she has ever had. They start walking through the city, officially beginning their prep for the long journey ahead. As long as they have a partner they can trust, no dungeon is too dangerous. A voice from the starry sky tells her to get moving because someone special is finally waiting. Sasa looks up, her only concern being if Takatsuki is actually doing okay. Mary is losing her mind after hearing the plan to tackle Labyrinthos. She begs the group to pick a mid-ranked dungeon instead of jumping straight into a death trap. Our boy is not budging. He tells Mary his mind is made up and they are heading out regardless of her warnings. He plays the leader card to shut down the argument. Lucy just watches as Mary desperately begs her to talk some sense into him. Mary goes full clingy mode, begging him to come back in one piece while giving him a squeeze. The other guys in the guild are fuming as they watch our MC get all the special treatment. Later at the guild, Lucas catches wind of the big debut. Makoto takes the chance to ask the veteran for some insider info on the dungeon. Lucas breaks down the layout of the 5 different floors. He keeps it real and warns them that the deeper levels are way out of their league. The lower levels are basically a nest for every kind of dragon imaginable. Makoto just nods along, already knowing the nightmare that waits down there. Lucas mentions the upper floors are basically a tutorial, with minotaurs being the only real threat. He figures the duo will be totally fine starting there. The middle floors are a different story, packed with everything from zombies to harpies. It is basically a massive variety pack of nightmare fuel. Lucy is underwhelmed, but Lucas checks her real quick. These things do not fight fair, they swarm you until you are overwhelmed. Every group has a commander calling the shots, making their movements way more organized than a typical mob. One wrong move and an average party gets surrounded and eaten. The visual of being lunch has the duo shaking in their boots. He adds that Labyrinthos is the ultimate goal, drawing in cocky rookies who just bought a fresh set of gear. The real danger is not just the monsters, but rookie hunters who lure newbies into dark corners to rob them blind and leave them for dead. Lucas gets a good laugh out of their reaction, telling them knowing when to fold is a top-tier life skill. A system message pops up to confirm that our boy and Lucy have lost every ounce of their motivation. Makoto thinks back to his orders from Noah, who told him to head for the Great Maze to find a fated encounter. He decides a direct tip from a goddess is too important to ignore. Lucas keeps the pressure on, laughing as he offers to share even more nightmare stories from the lower floors. Lucy has officially reached her limit, screaming for Makoto to save her from the trauma. Back on the street, the vibe is still heavy as Lucy wonders if they are actually going to survive the trip. Makoto stays practical, suggesting they stock up on healing items before mentioning someone he wants her to meet. They arrive at a local shop where Fujian and Nina are ready to welcome them back. The merchant is hyped to see his old friend, giving them a big hello as they step inside. Lucy is completely confused by the random reunion, while Makoto and Fujian share a solid handshake. Our boy is just happy to see a familiar face, even if the merchant admits it has been lonely without him. Time for the official intros as Nina says hi and Fujian introduces himself as the head of a major trading company. Lucy is just left standing there, processing the fact that her partner is friends with an actual CEO. Lucy is fully freaking out and grabbing Makoto by the shoulder. She cannot believe he is casually friends with the most famous merchant in the city. She breaks it down, explaining that the Fujiwara name is basically legendary. Apparently, this man built an empire in just 1 year and has the entire underworld in his pocket. Our boy is just standing there with his head spinning. He had no idea his buddy was such a big deal, but he figures Fujian must be using some insane gaming logic to win at life. Nina hops over to give Lucy some love. She recognizes the elf as a top-tier fire mage, which is definitely a solid ego boost. The praise keeps coming as Nina brings up the Griffin kill. Lucy tries to give credit to her partner, while Makoto just stands there looking confused. Fujian steps in to celebrate his friend for pulling off such a huge deed for the city. Makoto tries to play it cool by claiming it was a total fluke, and that he mostly just got burned. The merchant looks genuinely horrified by the idea of Griffin fire. Lucy finally reaches her limit and tells Makoto to stop lying to the poor man. Makoto keeps laying on the humility, shifting all the credit for the win to his former party members. He claims they only survived because of Jean and Emily, hyping up Jean's finishing move like it was the highlight of the fight. She adds that Makoto would have been toast without Emily's healing, but the comment just drops a heavy silence over the entire room. Makoto and Nina both catch Fujian looking absolutely drained as the atmosphere shifts into something awkward. Before our boy can even finish his thought, Fujian slams the counter and calls him out for being a terrible friend. He yells about why he wasn't invited on the quest, leaving Makoto completely stunned by the sudden outburst. Nina explains that her boss has been pacing back and forth for ages waiting for an invite, while Makoto admits he was just focused on grinding levels. Our MC tries to stay practical, noting that they are headed to the Great Maze and Fujian is basically a CEO with a company to run. Fujian is practically vibrating with hype. He is officially joining the squad and promises to handle the travel plans while Makoto just tries to keep up. The plan is locked in for a morning departure. They are set to meet at the eastern fields to get the journey started. Morning arrives at the meeting spot. Lucy is a bit skeptical about the empty field, but Makoto is sticking to his friend's directions. Social anxiety is hitting Lucy hard because she is not used to rolling with big shots. Makoto tells her to relax, assuming a standard horse-drawn carriage will be their ride. A giant airship suddenly drops from the clouds. Lucy explains that only kings and armies usually have these, right as the vessel hovers over their heads. Fujian and Nina wave from the deck like they own the sky. Our boy is shook because his friend really just pulled up in a flying fortress. Everyone boards the premier taxi service of this world. The crew gets the green light, the rotors spin, and the party finally begins their journey through the clouds. Lucy is geeked at the view, shouting about how the city looks like a toy from the clouds. Our boy is finally catching the vibe too, fidgeting with excitement as their first real quest begins. Destination locked. Makoto gives the signal to head for Labyrinthos, and the whole squad is ready to send it. Lucy hangs over the edge to catch the view while Nina plays safety officer, but Makoto keeps his distance from the drop. Fujian checks in to see how the flight is going. Our boy is actually impressed with how smooth this magic boat handles. The airship cruises over the forest, powered by magic spells that delete wind resistance and keep the deck still. Turns out this business flex came with a massive bill. Fujian is already crying about the debt he owes his sponsors. Lucy gets curious about the ship name, which is the perfect excuse for Fujian to drop some lore. He strikes a proud pose and announces their ride is the SS Saint Cannon, complete with white wings soaring through the sky. The girls are totally starstruck by the elegant name, but Makoto realizes his buddy really just named a legendary airship after his favorite gacha game waifu. Fujian tells the squad to enjoy the airborne ride until tomorrow morning. Nina steps up to lead everyone to their sleeping quarters. Nina shows off the room and Lucy immediately face plants into the massive bed. She is completely geeking out over how big and cool the setup is. The mood shifts when Nina explains that this room is strictly for one person. Lucy hits a hard pause as she realizes there is only a single bed for the two of them. Nina playfully asks if they should have just booked a double room instead. Makoto goes into a blushing panic and turns down the suggestion as fast as humanly possible. Night falls over the flying fortress and our boy drifts off into a deep sleep. He starts murmuring the name Sasa as memories of his old life begin to surface. In a flashback to his old life, a voice asks why he doesn't play games with his other friends. A familiar companion reminds him that she is already right there for him. Back in the old world, Sasa hangs out in his room while he spends the night gaming. She wonders if her constant visits are actually starting to bother him. Makoto reassures her she is not a bother, which is exactly what she needed to hear. She suggests playing together next time, making the memory even more bittersweet. Waking up in the middle of the night, our boy realizes the past is still chasing him in his sleep. He decides to head out for some air since he cannot get back to sleep. The airship deck offers a view that blows him away, and Fujian joins him to appreciate the silence of the night. The moon looks like a masterpiece, but in this world it represents death and darkness. It is a curious omen of ill fortune that stands in contrast to its beauty. They reflect on how different their lives are now compared to the bright lights of Japan. History hits hard when Fujian mentions the fallen moon nation of Lafroig. Makoto remembers hearing that they betrayed humanity to side with the monsters 1,000 years ago. The legend of the Witch of Calamity still haunts the world, known for pulling strings from the shadows. This dark history is exactly why moon magic is avoided by everyone in the present day. Even the current moon priestess was dragged off in chains by the Highland Knights just for her title. Makoto thinks it is unfair to treat her like a villain just because of some old stories. Fujian thinks the authorities are just using the Demon Lord revival as an excuse to suppress people and keep them scared. Our MC can only watch on, feeling bad for the girl caught in the middle of it all. The merchant is getting worked up about the monsters in the Great Maze, but Makoto keeps it casual. He insists they will just hang out on the top floors and avoid any real trouble. Fujian is not buying it, calling his friend out for taking massive risks while claiming to be cautious. Makoto just gives him a cheeky look and denies everything. Even the thought of the Griffin fight still has the merchant feeling on edge. Makoto just shrugs it off as something that simply had to be done. The vibe shifts when Fujian suddenly brings up Aya Sasaki. Makoto realizes his friend was reading his mind during his dream, leading to a quick and awkward apology from the merchant. Our boy is stuck in a dream, thinking about how much fun it would have been to explore this world with Sasaki. It is a bittersweet memory of what could have been since they have come such a long way from home. A loud knock on the door snaps him back to reality as Nina yells that they are finally arriving. He wakes up with a start, realizing he totally overleapt while they were in transit. Lucy points out toward the horizon, telling him he needs to see this. He leans over the railing and can only manage a breathless hoa at the sight. Labyrinth town stretches out below them, a massive settlement carved right into the middle of the wilderness. It is the official hub for anyone brave enough to challenge the Great Maze. The town is a massive machine built for support, filled with traders and temple workers who keep the adventurers going. It even holds the biggest guild branch in the entire Kingdom of Roses. Nina explains that they will be landing a bit farther away from the main gate. They do not want the locals to mistake their giant airship for some kind of flying monster and start a panic. With a heavy thud, the ship settles on the ground and the team finally steps out. The sheer energy of the bustling market hits them immediately. Walking through the crowded streets, Lucy can barely contain her excitement at the sheer number of adventurers compared to Macallen. Our boy keeps things moving, suggesting they hit the guild first while Fujian leads the way. The guild is packed to the brim with people. After a struggle through the crowd, Makoto finally secures their registration cards as Lucy stares in awe at the massive turnout. Business first for the merchant. Fujian heads off to check in with his own guild while Nina sticks by his side as the official muscle. With the party split for now, Makoto and Lucy plan to hunt down an inn. Fujian tells them to meet up later at the Hero Tavern, claiming it is the hottest spot in town. Finding an inn turns out to be a struggle when Lucy gets instantly distracted by the local fashion. She drags him toward the stalls, insisting that a little window shopping never hurt anyone. Our boy decides to play it cool and let her have her moment, even if the inn search is on hold. Up in his head, Noah's practically cheering, proud that he is finally learning how to treat a lady. The shopping trip hits a classic roadblock when Lucy holds up two choices and demands an opinion. Out of his element, Makoto just tells her to choose for herself, and she happily settles on the left one. Labyrinth Town is buzzing with energy that makes it feel like a vibrant festival. Lucy is even more excited than usual, and honestly, the hype is starting to get to our boy too. Lucy catches sight of a huge gathering and is already moving toward it. She points it out, eager to see what kind of event is drawing such a crowd. The arrival of the Highland Army turns the local excitement into a frenzy. A grand carriage guarded by knights rolls through as the crowd erupts in cheers. Our boy is stuck looking at people's backs since he is too short to see over the crowd. He checks with a local to see if this is just some fancy parade. The crowd goes wild for the hero of light, but a familiar face in the center of the hype stops Makoto in his tracks. Standing there in shiny armor is Sakurai, his old classmate who has obviously made it big in this world. Sakurai is clearly leaning into his main character energy as the hero of light. The crowd is losing it for him. Our boy tries to act like he is not jealous before spotting a face that makes him panic. He really hopes this is not the fateful encounter the goddess promised. Lucy wants to stay and fangirl over the parade, but he drags her away to go find an inn. He is in a rush to leave before he gets spotted by the one person he wants to avoid. Princess Sophia Air Roses sits in her carriage, looking down on the world. She is the priestess who took one look at him and decided he was worthless. With their lodging finally settled, Lucy is still buzzing about the huge crowd they passed. Our MC just wants to forget the bad memories seeing that party brought back. Lucy goes on about the incredible aura of Princess Noel from the Sun Nation. Makoto blinks in confusion, realizing he was so focused on his trauma that he missed the royal hair entirely. Lucy notes the Sun Princess held her own against Sakurai's massive aura. Too caught up in his past trauma, Makoto barely even registered her presence until now. Deciding that high-level royal drama is above his pay grade, he follows Lucy through the crowded streets. The whole town is practically vibrating with noise and energy. They find their group at a lively outdoor tavern. Nina spots them immediately and signals for them to join the table. Fujian is already riding high after closing a deal to lease his airship for shipping. One successful business play calls for a round of drinks and a celebratory toast. The talk shifts to the town's biggest news, confirming that Sakurai is officially on site. Word is he is planning to take down the Blight Dragon soon. Slumping into his hand, Makoto questions what the big deal is with all this hero worship. He seems more exhausted by the topic than impressed. His lack of common knowledge hits like a truck, leaving Lucy and Nina staring in disbelief. They can hardly believe he is asking such a basic question about the world's power hierarchy. Fujian explains that heroes are basically national assets. He lists the top tiers from other kingdoms, like the heroes of ice, incandescence, and swaying trees from nations like Spring Rogue. Our boy is just out here drinking and thinking about how unfair this game is. Lucy chimes in, saying these lucky few are treated like royalty because their skills are so rare. Sakurai is a special case even among heroes. He is the first hero of light to appear in over 1,000 years, making him the direct successor to the legendary savior Abel. Makoto is starting to realize the scale of this situation. Since Sakurai is a once-in-a-millennium talent, it makes sense that there is a literal parade waiting for him. Fujian spills the tea on the political struggle for Sakurai. The Kingdom of Roses tried to hold onto him first, but the Empire of Highland used their influence to claim him. This whole time, a massive trade was happening behind the scenes. In exchange for letting Sakurai go, Roses got the right to scout and recruit the rest of the other worlders first. Nina drops a massive bombshell about the dating life of the hero, mentioning he is already engaged to Princess Noel. He is apparently even getting cozy with Princess Sophia, leaving our boy and Lucy completely shook. Makoto starts imagining the hero life is all about being chased by princesses in every town. Fujian is quick to burst that bubble, mentioning that his situation is far from a dream come true. Nina drops some heavy intel, explaining that there are rumors about the princes of Highland actually being out for the hero's life. The idea of royals trying to take out their own savior is a wild reality check for our boy. His engagement to Princess Noel basically puts him next in line for the throne, cutting right in front of the eldest brother. This is some deep political darkness, and the power struggle within the empire is clearly getting messy. There are even whispers that the dragon appearing on the lower floors was a sabotage play by radicals. Makoto is honestly impressed that Fujian has his hands in every corner of the town's information network. While Fujian tries to play off his underworld connections, a stranger suddenly walks up and asks if the seat is taken. Makoto barely gets a word out before he does a massive spit take as he realizes who just sat down. It is the man himself, the hero of light. Sakurai is just casually rocking a commoner disguise and acting like they are just old friends hanging out back in their homeworld. Lucy is about to freak out and blow his cover, but Makoto manages to clamp his hand over her mouth just in time. He tells her to keep it together so they do not end up causing a scene in the middle of a crowded tavern. Sakurai mentions his whole squad is on the way while Nina struggles to form a coherent sentence. Fujian is impressed the hero even managed to track them down in this crowd. It turns out Fujian has been making power moves by sending premium drinks to the local knights. Sakurai is a fan of the gesture since the army loves a good shipment from Macallen. Fujian strikes a pose and explains that staying friendly with the biggest army on the continent is just smart business. This man is a merchant to his core. Sakurai gets way too close for comfort, acting like no time has passed since their school days. Makoto is just trying his best to keep it casual. The table talk turns to the dragon hunt, and Sakurai is surprised our boy is already taking on such a heavy quest. Makoto just brushes it off as grunt work for a rookie knight. Sakurai is convinced this dragon hunt will be light work for someone with Makoto's skills. Our boy stays humble, reminding him that they literally just arrived. The hero drops an invite to join forces in the dungeon, which almost makes Lucy blow their cover. Makoto has to physically silence her before she accepts an offer that would ruin his quiet life. Sakurai heads out after dropping a quick warning that the monsters downstairs are getting rowdy. He tells them to be careful before he vanishes into the night. He waves a casual goodbye, leaving the crew to wonder why the most famous hero on the planet just spent his night hanging with them. The vibe is heavy with confusion. The whole table is stuck in a state of shock. Nina is literally shivering while Lucy cannot believe how buddy-buddy he was with the boys. Fujian admits they were never actually close back at school. They were just the quiet kids in the back while Sakurai was the popular king of the classroom. Lucy is losing her mind over them turning down a carry from a literal legend. Our boy just keeps it real, knowing that dragon hunt is way above their pay grade. They decide to wrap up the night and get some rest before the big crawl. Lucy is still stressed, but Makoto is chilling like he does not have a care in the world. The next morning, the squad pulls up to the entrance of Labyrinthos. The place is already packed with other parties, but luckily Fujian came prepared with a map. Makoto pulls up the map and his old-school RPG player skill starts acting up. He is looking at 3 different cavern options like he is choosing his next mission. Our boy points towards the water cavern and the squad is immediately down for the plan. Nina is ready to lead the charge with plenty of energy. Fujian warns them that these cave walls are super brittle and could buckle at any moment. This means Lucy has to keep the explosive fire magic under wraps for this part of the crawl. Nina promises to carry the team while Lucy gets roasted for having butterfingers with her spells. The banter is peak as they head deeper into the dark. A splash in the water echoes as they discuss the local threats. They are counting on the strength of Nina to handle any mobs they run into on this floor. The thought of a Minotaur axe keeps everyone on high alert. These beasts usually guard the stairs to the lower levels, so the crew stays focused on staying safe. They keep moving while keeping the warning from Sakurai about aggressive monsters in mind. Everyone is staying on their guard because that blight dragon is still out there somewhere. Nina throws her hand up after single-handedly clearing the room. The squad is stunned by her power while they stand over a mountain of defeated mobs. Our boy realizes they are basically playing on easy mode since Nina is doing all the heavy lifting. Catching him in the middle of a deep thought, Fujian suggests they take a well-deserved breather. Lucy decides to roll with the plan and take it easy for a minute. Fujian is already 2 steps ahead and ready to settle down right where they are. Whipping out the map with a huge grin, Nina points out the great waterfalls of Labyrinthos. She is hyped because the guide says it is one of the top sites in the whole dungeon. Confusion sets in as the team reads about dungeon tourist tours, but their interest peaks when Nina mentions it is a legendary spot for couples. Lucy's ears twitch as the vibe shifts instantly. A sudden burst of energy sends Lucy leading the charge to the falls. The guys are left wondering where she found that second wind so fast. They step out onto the cliff and are greeted by a massive, roaring waterfall that dwarfs everything around it. This incredible view makes them forget they are even in a dangerous dungeon. Our boy suddenly clutched his head as his danger sense skill started screaming at him. The warning siren felt like it was splitting his skull in 2, and a heavy rumbling sound began to shake the cavern floor. A giant dragon exploded through the ground, towering over the group with a deafening roar. The floor shattered under its weight as the beast emerged to claim its territory. Most people would be running for their lives, but our MC was actually happy to see a legendary beast in person. He stood there geeking out about the view, thinking to himself that fantasy worlds are the best. Lucy grabbed him and started hauling him away while Nina yelled at him to focus. He finally snapped out of his trance, but the dragon was already closing the distance from behind. Suddenly the ledge gave way because the stone was too brittle from the dragon's arrival. Makoto lunged forward to grab Lucy as she slipped, but the entire ledge crumbled beneath them. Both of them went over the edge and started plummeting into the misty abyss below. Nina and Fujian could only watch in horror as their friends vanished down the side of the waterfall. Slamming into the lake with a massive splash, our duo barely manages to pull themselves onto a solid ledge. Makoto is coughing up half the waterfall while Lucy tries to process the drop. She is already worried about Nina and Fujian, hoping they found a safer way out of that mess. Looking at the sheer drop, Makoto estimates they ended up somewhere on the dungeon middle floor. He admits that without his water magic to break their fall, they would have been finished. Lucy is pretty annoyed that a dragon showed up on the top floor, calling the whole situation unfair. Makoto agrees, knowing that beast was way above their current pay grade. When Lucy asks if they can just ride his magic back up the falls, the MC has to deliver the bad news. His water walking skills are strictly for horizontal travel and cannot handle a vertical climb. With the way back up totally blocked, they realize their only option is to press deeper and find a new exit. Makoto suggests they start scouting with stealth so they can avoid any more surprise encounters. Lucy is all in on the plan, knowing they need to play it safe for now. The pair carefully navigates the area behind the falls, staying out of sight. After spotting some dangerous silhouettes in the distance, they decide to stick to the shadows. Luckily, they find a quiet cave opening and decide it is the best place to regroup. Resting in a quiet corner of the cave, the duo tries to catch their breath. Makoto is way too chill about their situation, while Lucy is just praying they can find a way back to the surface. Lucy gives him a side eye, wondering how he can stay so calm in such a dangerous dungeon. It is comforting, but honestly, it is also a little bit weird. Our MC is busy promising Lucy they will make it out when a small voice suddenly cuts through the silence. A little girl is just standing there, asking if they are adventurers. The kid looks helpless, wobbling on her feet and begging for help. Lucy's hero instincts kick in immediately, and she starts to rush over to the poor thing. But before she can get close, Makoto yanks her back with everything he has. His danger sense is blaring like a siren, and the little girl drops the act with a nasty smirk. In a split second, spider legs burst from her back as she reveals her true form as an Arachin. Makoto does not skip a beat, shouting for Lucy to start her incantation. The monster lunges forward with a crazed look in her eyes, screaming about how she is going to eat them. She is fast, but our duo is already moving into their combat stances. Ice needles rip into the monster's face, turning her innocent act into a blood-curdling scream. Massive spider legs burst out as Makoto readies his blade to try out a new trick. Activating his player skill reveals a cavern packed with water elementals, which is basically an all-you-can-eat buffet for a mage. He decides a friendly greeting is the best way to get these spirits on his side. After a quick chat in their own language, he can feel all the spirits in the room focusing their power on him. He knows this is exactly the sign he was looking for. Makoto locks the monster down with water chains and gives Lucy the signal to bring the heat. She is more than ready to let loose. Lucy drops a massive fireball to finish the job, even if her aim is still a total disaster. The explosion is way bigger than expected, and she has to play it off like she meant to do that. Lucy tried to play it cool while covered in soot, claiming she totally meant for that massive blast to happen. Makoto just sighed and went along with it, knowing better than to argue with her logic. Still riding the high, Lucy asked how he learned such a high-range spell so quickly. Makoto kept it humble, explaining he just asked the local water elementals for a little backup. Our boy admitted his control over the spirits is still a work in progress, but Lucy was just impressed by the sheer power. She warned him to stay sharp since monsters in these depths love disguising themselves as humans. The victory lap was cut short as a massive swarm of Arachin surrounded them from every corner. With Lucy spiraling into a total panic, Makoto reached out to the elementals for one more favor. He called for the spirits to run wild, summoning a massive water dragon that dwarfed the entire cave. He grabbed Lucy, telling her to hang on tight as they prepared to ride the wave out of there. They blasted through the tunnels on the back of the dragon, leaving the spider swarm far behind in the wake of the flood. The ride ended with a heavy splash as they landed in a nearby pool of water. Soaking wet and out of breath, they finally caught a moment to realize they actually survived the encounter. After that wild ride, the duo finds themselves surrounded by a massive line of monster silhouettes. Makoto starts to realize that summoning a giant water dragon might have drawn a bit too much attention. Lucy is officially freaking out as things get even worse in the water. Our boy grabs her and tells her to brace herself while they scramble to find some actual dry land. Just as they try to make a move, a massive sea serpent bursts out of the depths with a giant splash. It looks like the water isn't any safer than the caves they just escaped. To make matters worse, a swarm of harpies starts circling them from above. Makoto doesn't miss a beat and activates his walk-on-water magic to give them a fighting chance. The situation looks like a total wipe, but Makoto notices the different monster species are actually starting to fight each other. This monster free for all might be the distraction they need. A harpy tries to catch him off guard with a flanking strike, but his RPG player skill predicts the move perfectly. He stays completely chill while his abilities do the heavy lifting in the middle of the chaos. Noah pops up to check in on him in the middle of the mess. Our boy admits that some actual godly guidance would be a lot better than a casual check-in right now. Abandoning a friend isn't an option, and he makes it clear he's staying by her side regardless of the danger. The system pops up a coward's exit with a literal escape option, but he shuts it down without a second thought. They lock in a strategy to fight their way out together while he handles the defensive work and dodging. Over 50 monsters are currently swarming their position as they hold their ground in the middle of the shallow water. Most of the surrounding mobs are weak, but the numbers game is still a major risk for the duo. Suddenly, a surge of dread hits his senses as he detects one presence that is much stronger than the rest. Standing in the middle of the horde is a Lamia who is clearly on a whole other level of power. Makoto knows they are in a bad spot because casting a spell would leave him wide open. He decides he needs a different strategy to handle the Lamia. Our boy switches to his 360-degree player view and baits the monster by turning his back. He is betting everything on the hope that it actually takes the bait. The trap snaps shut as the Lamia lunges for the opening. He stays focused and prepares for a single counter-strike. This monster is way too fast and even manages to dodge a point-blank ice needle. He is stunned because no monster has ever dodged that spell before. The situation falls apart as the monster pins him and leaves him with zero room to move. He starts to wonder if this is actually how his journey ends. Even with his life on the line, he thinks this monster is actually kind of pretty. He knows Lucy would be furious if she could hear his thirsty thoughts right now. The expected attack never comes as the Lamia stops mid-strike and tries to say his name. She grabs his collar and screams his name, Takatsuki. Our boy is caught completely off guard as the monster looks at him with pure recognition. He stands there wondering how a creature in this world could possibly know who he is. Instead of a death blow, the Lamia pulls Makoto into a tight hug and cheers his name. He is frozen in place, recognizing the voice of his old classmate Sasa but terrified by her scaly new body. Sasa is ecstatic to finally find him and squeezes even tighter. Lucy is losing her mind in the background, desperately trying to shoo away the massive predator before her friend becomes a snack. Lucy refuses to back down and summons a massive fireball to burn the intruder. Makoto begs her to stop before she incinerates them both, realizing they are a single spark away from being toast. Back in safety, our boy tries to explain that the monster is actually a human from his original world. Lucy does not believe him for a second, pointing out the very obvious snake half that is definitely not human. They take a moment to look around the massive cavern and realize they need to move. If they want to survive long enough to talk things over, they have to get out of the open immediately. Makoto asks Sasa if she knows a safe place nearby to hide from the surrounding monsters. She thinks for a second and suggests a spot hidden from prying eyes. Sasa points toward a secret area behind the waterfalls and tells them to follow her. Makoto prepares to shift the water flow while telling Lucy to blast anything that moves so they can reach the cover. Lucy finally caves and puts her trust in the plan. "I'm counting on you, Makoto," she says, steeling herself for the dash. Our boy just needs to make sure she can handle her part. The duo combines their magic for a high-speed escape. Fire and water collide, blasting them straight through the crashing waterfall. Makoto tells everyone to hang on as they break through the mist. They finally touch down in a damp cavern to catch their breath. Phew, that was exhausting. Makoto sighs as water drips from the rocky ceiling. Even in the safe zone, Sasa refuses to let go. She nuzzles into Makoto's neck, much to Lucy's annoyance. "What, this thing is still clinging to you?" she asks, weirded out by the predator's affection. Makoto still can't wrap his head around the situation and asks if she's really his old classmate. Lucy isn't convinced either, pointing out that she's currently a snake. "I mean, you look like a monster," she says with zero filter. Sasa realizes the scaly look is a bit much and decides to fix it. She whips out some disguise magic, and a bright flash begins to envelop her body. The group watches in shock as her monster features start to melt away. The transformation is a success, but she forgot one very important part. Sasa cheers unfazed by being naked. Lucy immediately throws a cloak over her while screaming at her to have some decency. Our boy hands Sasa a spare coat to keep things decent. She is thrilled, but Lucy is busy judging the very short hemline. Sasa is all smiles in her new gear while Lucy seethes in the background. As they head deeper into the cavern, Lucy questions if their new guide is actually trustworthy. Time for the formal introductions. Makoto introduces his old classmate to his current party member, and the vibes are definitely awkward. Sasa decides to mark her territory by leaning in close. She asks if Lucy is our boy's girlfriend, sending the elf into a total panic. Lucy is left stuttering while the air clears. Makoto finally asks the big question about how his old friend ended up as a snake monster in a dungeon. The story shifts back to their original world during a brutal blizzard. Sasa remembers her vision fading as the bus went off the road. Darkness was the only thing waiting for her when she woke up. Trapped and confused, she wondered if she was in an intensive care unit. Sasa woke up to find herself the star of the show in a nest of snake monsters. Her new mother was thrilled to see her awake, but our girl was too busy having a midlife crisis about her new tale. It took a minute to sink in, but our girl was officially a Lamia now. Moving from 4 brothers to a huge family of snake sisters was a wild change, and she hoped her old siblings were doing okay without her. Living with the pack was fine until it was time to eat, because the menu was terrible. While her sisters were out here munching on frogs and bugs, she decided to just stick with fruit to keep her sanity. Things took a dark turn one day when her sisters dragged a heavy sack in from the surface. They called it a delicacy and presented it to their mother like they just won the lottery. The vibe went from 0 to 100 when the mother Lamia pulled a whole human adventurer out of the bag. Watching her new family prepare to snack on a person was the reality check that she was living with man-eaters. She wanted to run and find a city, but realized no human would ever accept a giant snake girl. Stuck in the nest with nowhere to go, she finally accepted her fate as a monster. One of her older sisters noticed the mood was off and checked in to see what was wrong. Our girl nearly jumped out of her skin and lied through her teeth, claiming she just really wanted to see the outside world. The Mama Lamia decided it was finally time for the little ones to start hunting their own meals. She announced a group field trip beyond the nest for the very first time, and the whole squad was absolutely hyped. Having never left the safety of the cave, our girl couldn't help but wonder what kind of crazy wonders the outside world was hiding. They eventually stumbled upon a massive underground waterfall that looked like something straight out of a vacation catalog. Their mother warned them to watch out for monsters in the deep water, which was pretty ironic considering they were literally giant snake people. Basking in the rare sunlight, Sasa spotted a giant bird in the sky and just assumed everything in a fantasy world was built different. That giant bird turned out to be a harpy that snatched her up instantly, and her new mom didn't even hesitate before telling the others to leave her behind. Aya realized mid-air that she was actually way stronger than the bird holding her. She broke free with a single kick and went for a swim in the lake below. Floating in the water, she started planning her next move. A sudden screech from above interrupted her thoughts. Welcome to the food chain. A gigantic dragon snatched the harpy right out of the air for a quick snack. Aya surfaced in a cold sweat, realizing just how terrifying this fantasy world really was. Back at the base, her sisters were hyped to see she survived. They invited her on a big hunt tomorrow, but our girl was just happy to be alive. Time for a lesson in stealth. The mother Lamia showed the group how to use disguise magic to look human, and the squad was floored by the transformation. The training was pretty intense. Between memorizing human language and learning how to wear clothes, the girls had a lot of work to do. Aya started thinking big. If she could master this disguise magic, she might actually be able to leave the cave and live in a human city. Her sisters were hyped to see her hitting the books so hard. When they asked why, she just played it off like she was prepping for a human encounter. Part of her felt guilty for wanting to leave, especially since the sisters thought she just wanted to find a human snack. They really thought she was just hungry. Back at the home base, the squad hyped Aya up to their mother. Her help with the recent catches was making waves in the community. The mother Lamia took notice of her insane growth. Standing face to face with the boss, Aya wondered if her human soul was the reason her stats were so high. A little head pat goes a long way. Mother thanked her for making the nest a safer place, and Aya was officially the golden child. The initial shock of being reborn as a monster started to fade. Seeing how much they cared made her realize she landed in a pretty loving family. Surrounded by her sisters, she made a silent promise. She was going to pay back all this kindness as much as possible. Makoto was impressed by how much Sasa had already handled. Lucy mentioned that Lamia are actually super kind to their families, and Sasa just gave a knowing laugh. But her voice grew solemn as she continued, and her tale took a twist toward unbearable tragedy. A brutal event struck the nest, leaving her entire family lying in the dirt. Noah's divine quest took a sharp turn into the depths of Labyrinthos. A surprise dragon attack sent the whole party into a freefall toward the dangerous middle floors. Landing in the pitch-black tunnels, Makoto wasn't alone for long. A massive, clawed hand reached out from the shadows and snatched him up. But instead of a bite, he got a full-body hug. The monster wasn't looking for a snack, she was drowning in tears of joy. This wasn't just some random dungeon boss. It was Sasa, his former classmate who was supposed to be dead, now reborn with scales and a tail. Sheltering in a quiet cave, Makoto asked about her new life among the monsters. Sasa's voice grew heavy as she started recounting the story of her family. While her siblings were out hunting, Sasa spent every spare second practicing magic to hide her monster identity. Her peaceful routine was shattered when a sister came running with a terrified warning. The sight that met her was pure horror. Her entire family had been turned into blocks of ice, frozen where they stood before they could even fight back. The culprit was a tundra tiger, and since Lai are basically weak to ice, one hit from its breath was an instant game over for her sisters. Our girl was fuming, clenching her fist as she called out the elder for keeping her in the dark. She was tired of the vague lessons and wanted real answers about why her family had to die. Talk time was officially over. She lunged straight at her sister, ready to throw hands and ignore the hierarchy completely. The rest of the nest scrambled to break them up while Sasa realized she just crossed a major line. She had broken the ultimate law that says the word of an elder is absolute. Just like that, a massive rift formed between the two sisters and the family split into factions. Sasa kept her squad safe by taking the front lines during every hunt, convinced this was the only way to protect them. She did not want anyone else becoming a popsicle on her watch. The other faction stuck to the old school ways, letting the rookies lead the hunt so they could actually level up. It was working too, and the younger sisters were steadily getting stronger. Sasa realized that if she ever wanted to join human society, she would have to leave her monster sisters behind. It was a heavy thought, especially since the younger ones were so dependent on her that they would likely starve without her protection. Thinking it over, she started to see that the second sister's tough love was actually the right move. Forcing them to hunt on their own was the only way to make sure they would be independent enough to survive. After slapping some sense into herself, she decided her ego was not worth her sister's suffering. She did not want to lose her family over a grudge, so she steeled herself to go make things right. She tracked down her sister in the cave, but the timing was definitely off. The elder was already heading out for a hunt and did not seem interested in a deep conversation. Not wanting to push her luck, she asked if they could just talk when the hunt was over. Her sister actually softened up and agreed to have a real chat that night. Hearing that was a massive weight off her shoulders. The door was finally open for her to apologize and mend the rift between them. She drifted off into a nap while dreaming of being a happy family again, but the peace did not last. She woke up to a sudden, bone-chilling cold that definitely did not belong in their cave. Sasa woke up to a nightmare where her entire family was already on the ground. She could only watch in terror as the cave was filled with screams and confusion. Harpies were swarming the hideout and pinning down the surviving sisters with brutal force. They were laughing while they enjoyed the one-sided slaughter. It hit her that someone must have opened the door from the inside to let these monsters in. Before she could process the betrayal, a new voice called out to her from the shadows. The Harpy Queen stepped forward and announced she was finally ending a 300-year feud. The mother Lamia was barely hanging on and begged Sasa to run while she still could. There was no mercy as the queen delivered a fatal blow right in front of Sasa. The cave echoed with the sounds of a final, desperate struggle. The queen did not just stop at the kill and pulled out her target's heart to admire the color. Sasa could only scream as she watched the monster prepare to feast on her mother. With the main threat gone, the queen turned her gaze toward the last witness. The harpies closed in to finish the job. Sasa was barely holding on as the world around her fell apart. The Harpy Queen mocked her for having too much stamina and surviving the brutal cold. Our girl could only stare in shock as her reality started to crumble. Desperate for help, Sasa cried out for her sister to save her from the nightmare. The queen just smirked and grabbed her face, dropping a cold-blooded reveal. It turns out her own sister was the one who let the enemy into their home. The harpies stood over her like vultures, mocking the idea of family loyalty. Sasa's mind was racing as she tried to make sense of the betrayal. She refused to believe the one person she trusted most would sell them out. Memories of her sister watching over the nest flashed through her mind. This was the same person who spent every day making sure everyone was safe and happy. There was just no way she could be a traitor. The queen's grin grew wider as she announced that the traitor had finally arrived. A heavy thud echoed through the cave, sending a new wave of panic through Sasa. She looked up and let out a scream that shook her entire soul. The queen reached down and lifted a severed head by the hair for Sasa to see. It was her sister, and the queen joked that she only wanted to teach the bratty little sister a lesson. The horror of the sight was almost too much to handle. There is no loyalty among monsters, and the queen proved that even the traitor was not safe. She took a sick pleasure in watching Sasa's spirit break in real time. Our girl was left speechless as the tragedy reached its peak. Sasa is shocked to see a human mage, but she can tell something is very wrong. The Harpy Queen smirks, explaining that humans make the best servants once their free will is gone. Sasa is completely paralyzed by the human magic, realizing her monster strength is useless here. The queen prepares to end her, saying it has been fun but this is goodbye. As the ice starts to close in, Sasa realizes she is meeting the same frozen fate that ended her last life. It feels like the blizzard from the bus accident is happening all over again. Somehow she wakes up alive and alone in the silent cave. The harpies are long gone, and Sasa knows she needs to get stronger if she ever wants a chance at revenge. From that day on, she hunts every single monster she comes across. It is a non-stop cycle of killing as she grinds for the power she needs. Standing atop a pile of corpses, she has become the ultimate predator of the abyss. She just keeps hunting, losing herself in the slaughter. The killing spree finally ends when she spots a reflection in her eyes. She cannot believe it, but someone who looks exactly like Takatsuki is standing right in front of her. Saso is stunned to see a familiar face in this deep cavern. She can barely believe her eyes as she whispers his name. After hearing the full story, the group takes a second to breathe. Our boy is still processing the fact that her entire monster family is gone. Lucy is immediately ready to choose violence for her new friend. She grabs Sasa by the hands and promises to turn those harpies into charcoal. Makoto realizes he has been complaining about nothing. He thought his start was rough, but Sasa has been surviving a dark nightmare. Looking at her resilience, our MC decides it is time to get his act together. He admits his struggles are nothing compared to the path she has walked. Sasa is locked in on getting revenge for her sisters. The system asks if he wants to help her out, and the answer is already decided. Lucy makes sure they are all on the same page. Makoto confirms they are sticking together because that is what best friends do. Sasa finally stops to catch her breath and gives a sincere thank you to the squad. They decide to head back to town before Fujian has a heart attack, hoping the guild has some fresh intel on the harpies. Hearing that Fujiwara is also around has Sasa feeling like it is a school reunion all over again. While the girls chat, Makoto realizes he almost forgot something important. Our MC clutches his dagger and sends a silent shout-out to Noah for helping him find his friend. The goddess just gives him a cheeky laugh, acting like she had it all planned out. Sasa and Lucy warn him not to get too comfortable just yet. Makoto just nods with that main character energy, promising he is ready for whatever comes next. Following Sasa's lead, the group starts the long grind back to the surface. It is a smooth ride this time, with not a single monster standing in their way. Finally, the sound of crashing water hits their ears as they reach the great waterfalls of Labyrinthos. They made it back to the top floor in one piece. The story continues with Fujian stuck in a deep gloom, while Nina reminds him they had to run to survive. He's still beating himself up for losing his friends in the dungeon, thinking he should have grabbed their hands before they fell. Nina suddenly stops talking as her bunny ears catch a familiar sound from outside the window. She realizes it is Makoto's voice, leaving Fujian completely stunned as they both scramble to see if it is true. Back on the surface, the group makes their grand return to the city streets. Makoto gives a casual wave to the shocked onlookers while Lucy and Sasa follow close behind. Fujian does not even wait for a greeting before he charges in for the world's most intense bro hug. He is just glad to see his best friend is still in one piece after everything they went through. Sasa gives a playful wave to a stunned Nina, who immediately recognizes her as Lady Sasaki. Fujian is still trying to figure out who this stylish new companion is while Sasa just asks if they missed her. Since they are drawing a crowd, Makoto suggests they take the conversation inside for some privacy. He also asks if they can hook Sasa up with some actual clothes before they start the long explanation. Everyone settles in around a table with some warm tea as Sasa catches them up on her journey. She makes it clear that her main goal now is to track down those harpies and avenge her lost family. Nina is completely overwhelmed by the tragedy Sasa went through. The group solidifies their pact to get some serious payback. Fujian won't hear of them going it alone. He reminds them that classmates always look out for each other. The exhaustion is finally catching up to everyone. Fujian takes over the research duty so the trio can actually get some sleep. Logistics are in good hands with the merchant duo. They head off to the guild to make things official. Morning brings a major discovery during the investigation. The target is a calamity-class threat with a massive bounty on her head. Taking on a swarm is a whole different level of danger compared to a single monster. Nina warns that things could get messy if they get surrounded. Since harpies hate fire, Lucy is officially the team's secret weapon. She is ready to put her magic to work. Sasa is already flexing her monster stats by claiming she can one-shot a harpy, while Lucy tries to play along despite the awkward tension. Our boy is definitely feeling the heat since both girls are practically glued to his arms. Sasa points out the real issue is tracking down the Harpy Queen, but Makoto is way too flustered to focus on strategy right now. He finally snaps and calls for a timeout, pushing the girls away because things were getting a bit too cramped for his comfort. Back to business, Fujian delivers the bad news that the guild has zero intel on the Harpy nest. Nina suggests they split up and handle the investigation themselves to cover more ground. The MC decides he and Sasa will head back into the dungeon while the rest of the crew handles the town intel. Lucy is not having it at all and demands to tag along, clearly not wanting to be left out of the action. Nina warns that the dungeon is currently crawling with high-level threats like dragons, making it a death trap for the unprepared. Lucy immediately fires back, worried that if it is too dangerous for her, then it is definitely too risky for Makoto to go alone. Makoto plays it cool, reminding everyone he can always slip away if there is water nearby. He also mentions his daily routine of vibing with the water elementals to keep his magic sharp, which even Fujian thinks sounds like a lot of work. Sasa offers to be the guide since she knows the layout like the back of her hand, and Makoto plans to teach her some stealth skills along the way. They are officially a duo now, leaving a very salty Lucy watching from the sidelines. Lucy is caught in her feelings while Sasa gives our boy's sleeve a needy tug. She has a very specific request for him. Lucy is not letting him off the hook and demands a private training session tonight. Our boy plays the supportive teammate, reminding her that her fire magic is their only hope for the big fight. That does the trick and Lucy is all smiles, but she still warns him to keep things professional with Sasa. Our MC is left wondering what she could possibly be implying. No more time for drama as the crew gives the signal to move out. They head straight for the cave entrance to start the hunt. Deep in the middle floor of the labyrinth, the sound of waterfalls fills the air. Sasa leads the way, using her monster knowledge to track down the harpy nest. Training is in session as Sasa tries to get the hang of some stealth skills. It is proving to be a lot tougher than she expected. Sasa notices the look on his face and points out that he actually seems to be enjoying himself. Our boy is caught off guard, but he cannot deny that the per-boss fight hype is real. Sasa mentions how much better it is to work as a team rather than being alone. Our MC apologizes for not taking the mission seriously enough, but she just turns back with a lingering thought. Reaching a waterfall spot triggers a wave of nostalgia for her. She recalls the days when she and her sisters would hunt and bask in the sunshine together right at this very spot. She laughs about her sisters constantly arguing over whether frogs or bugs tasted better while she stuck strictly to fruit. Our boy feels a bit bad for accidentally dragging up these heavy memories. The mood shifts as she admits that everything feels different now that she has finally found him. Makoto can barely manage a stuttered reply as the awkwardness levels hit the roof. Both of them are blushing like crazy as she says how glad she is to see him again. This dude is struggling to keep it together while he mutters a simple agreement. The vibe gets way too intense, and he imagines a very angry Lucy warning him to keep things professional. They both immediately scramble to get back to work, splitting up to talk to elementals and practice some stealth skills. While he checks the map for spirits, his scout skill suddenly pings a nearby threat. He alerts Sasa that a harpy might be closing in on their position right now. They finally spot the harpies and Sasa is clearly ready for smoke. She knows she has to wait for the right moment though. Makoto tells her to keep it together until they are actually ready to strike. She gives him a silent nod. Our boy notices they are all filtering in through those massive ceiling holes. Sasa confirms that is their usual entry point. He pieces it together, figuring the main nest and the queen have to be right around those openings. Sasa points out the obvious problem that they cannot fly up there. Makoto is not tripping though, saying they will figure it out as a team later. Once the coast is clear and the harpies fly off, they finally step out of cover. Makoto suggests doing a bit more training before heading back so Lucy does not get worried. Sasa seems to have something on her mind though as she calls out his name. Sasa is straight up interrogating him about his relationship with Lucy. This dude is blindsided, fumbling for an answer and explaining they have just been party members for half a year. She presses him further, wanting to know if it was always just the two of them. He clarifies that they joined up with others sometimes, but her expression shows she is definitely overthinking things. Our boy admits he usually grinds alone because it is just simpler that way. He even tries to flex his skills, claiming to be an expert when it comes to hunting down goblins. Seeing him act smug has her cracking up, saying he has not changed one bit since their old days. She wipes a tear from her eye while he stands there with a question mark over his head. The squad officially grows as he holds up 3 fingers to invite her. This effectively turns their duo into a 3-person party. Sasa is more than happy to sign up, but then he remembers he probably should have asked Lucy first. They both agree to handle the conversation once they make it back to the surface. Confidence is high that Lucy will be cool with the new arrangement. Sasa watches him go, thinking to herself that a 3-person party actually sounds like a lot of fun. Sasa looks back on their time in Japan, remembering Makoto as a solo gamer who never had any close female friends. Seeing Lucy glued to his arm now is a massive reality check on how much he has changed. She figures the first-name basis might just be the norm in this world since Lucy does it with everyone. When Makoto calls out to her, she starts debating if she should finally drop the formalities and call him by his first name too. Sasa shakes off her doubts with a bright smile, deciding that surprises are actually a good thing. Our boy is left looking completely lost while she makes a silent promise to save that special name for another day. Back at training, Lucy is flexing her new skills by dropping a massive rock right in front of them. Our boy is actually impressed since she usually just sticks to fire magic. She is already planning to spice things up by adding fire to her earth spells, which sounds like a nightmare for any harpy. Makoto shifts the vibe back to business, asking for the scouting report from the girls. Elsewhere, rumors are swirling that the hero of light is coming to take down the Blight Dragon soon. Everyone is just hoping the dungeon stops being so chaotic once that big lizard is out of the picture. Makoto fills her in on the harpy nest they found earlier, but his mind is clearly elsewhere. He tentatively asks how Sasa is holding up after being back in the environment that destroyed her family. Lucy mentions she seems fine on the surface, but the tension is real. The moment they spotted those harpies, she could feel the pure hatred radiating off Sasa. Our girl is ready to throw hands and get some revenge for her new teammate. Makoto agrees but knows they need a perfect plan before charging into a nest full of monsters. The next morning, Sasa is already itching for a fight and cannot believe they are stalling. Makoto has to be the voice of reason, reminding her they still need to pin down the exact spot and stock up on supplies. Sasa is practically vibrating with the urge to start the hunt, but Makoto tells her to pump the brakes. He understands the rush, but charging in blind is just a bad move. Makoto plays the safety card, reminding her that Calamity-class monsters are a different breed of dangerous. Sasa knows he is right, but the urgency is still eating at her. Before things get too dark, Lucy steps in to pivot the mood. Lucy suddenly suggests a day out on the town to help her new teammate relax. Our boy is left blinking in confusion at the sudden change in energy. The invite catches her off guard, but the rest of the group is quick to back the idea. Fujian and Nina remind her that even an Avenger needs a break to appreciate this new world. A little more patience is all he asks to make sure the revenge mission actually works. Sasa stays silent for a long moment before finally giving a quiet agreement. The party splits up with a plan to regroup later for a strategy meeting. Sasa heads off to handle guild business with the rest of the crew while Makoto gets to work. Even with the plan in place, she cannot stop questioning the delay. Her head is filled with memories of the family she lost, making the wait feel like an eternity. Aya finishes getting ready and meets up with Lucy to head out. They hit the market where Aya gets a quick crash course on local currency from a vendor before Lucy spots something interesting and pulls her along. Lucy holds a cute ribbon up to her new teammate's head and insists they buy a matching pair. Aya looks a bit caught off guard by the sudden shopping spree energy. While Lucy rushes ahead to the next stall, Aya lingers behind with a heavy heart. She feels guilty for being a burden and letting her personal drama affect the group, letting out a long sigh as she follows along. Noticing the change in vibe, Lucy suggests they take a break for some tea. Aya is surprised by the sudden invite but quickly agrees to the pause. The two settle down at a cozy outdoor cafe while a waitress brings over their drinks. Lucy apologizes for the long day of walking, but Aya reassures her that she actually wanted to see more of the city. Watching the happy crowds pass by, Aya notes how peaceful and lively the town feels despite the constant monster threats. Lucy stays quiet for a second before finally shifting the topic to something much more personal. Lucy leans in with a serious look, acknowledging they barely know each other yet. She cuts straight to the point and asks about the long history between Aya and Makoto. Ever since he arrived, people have treated him like a joke for being weak, but she's seen the truth. Lucy admits he saved her life more times than she can even count. She gets hyped, clenching her fists with a goofy, determined expression. Aya needs to just relax and trust him, because they'll be ready for anything when it's time to handle those harpies. A memory of their old world flashes back, showing Makoto glued to his controller while Aya watched from the bed. He was always obsessed with studying every tiny detail to secure a win, even back then. Aya realizes his insane level of effort translated perfectly to this new world. She mentions he's a bit on the cautious side, which gets a loud reaction from a very skeptical Lucy. The elf leans in, her face turning a deep shade of red as she tries to be sincere. Since they're officially partners now, she wants Aya to feel like she can finally relax a bit. Aya immediately suggests a cute nickname to seal the friendship, which is way too much for her new teammate. Blushing like crazy, Lucy tells her it wasn't a big deal and to just drink her tea. The conversation turns more reflective as they look out over the town. Lucy breaks the silence, asking what our MC was really like back in the world they came from. Back at the base, our MC wraps up the scouting report by pointing out the harpy nest near the cavern ceiling holes. Sasa stares at the map with a heavy look, finally knowing exactly where her target is hiding. Fujian chimes in with some big news, revealing that the legendary hero Sakurai and his knights already took down a blight dragon. Everyone is impressed by how fast the top-tier hero is moving through his quest. Our boy asks for the catch, sensing there is more to the story. Fujian drops the poker face, admitting the situation is a lot more complicated than it looks. Turns out there are still 2 more blight dragons roaming around, which is way more than they expected. This news hits the team hard, and the vibe in the room turns sour real fast. Lucy worries about the monsters getting even more aggressive with dragons on the loose. Sasa does not care about the extra threats though, only asking when they are finally going to hunt down the Harpy Queen. Our MC weighs the options, thinking it is smarter to wait for the dragons to be cleared out first. He knows they cannot leave Sasa hanging forever, even considering jumping in to help Sakurai just to speed things up. Realizing he needs to prioritize Sasa, our boy decides to step up the pace because a harder challenge just makes winning feel better. He asks Lucy for a timeline on her new combo spell, and she estimates they will be ready for action in just 3 days. Makoto locks in the final schedule, giving the team 4 days to prep before they move on the Harpy Nest. He plans to buff his elemental magic while Sasa grinds her stealth skills and Lucy crafts her trump card. Our boy checks if Lucy can really pull off her new spell in 3 days, and she is determined to make it work. Nina even jumps in to offer a helping hand with a cheerful smile. Makoto keeps it professional and tells the girls he is down to adjust the plan if they hit any snags. Instead of a serious answer, he just gets a mysterious giggle from the duo. Bro is left scratching his head when the girls start teasing him about his obsession with safety. They are clearly bonding over his cautious nature, which just leaves him even more confused. Lucy is totally locked in and promises her part of the plan is as good as done. Our MC is a bit overwhelmed by her sudden burst of energy and can only wish her luck. The countdown is officially on with only 4 days left until the mission begins. Training is in full swing as the team pushes their limits under the night sky. With the mission set for tomorrow, our boy is lying wide awake with his heart thumping in his chest. He knows they are ready, but he can't help feeling that something might go sideways. A familiar sensation pulls our boy back into the starry void of the goddess's realm, and he instantly recognizes the divine vibe. A voice calls out to him after their long time apart, and he turns to find No waiting for him once again. Instead of a majestic welcome, he finds the goddess just lounging on the floor with a fan and a popsicle. She looks way too chill for a divine being, and she just casually welcomes him back into her realm. Back in the starry void, our boy finally reunites with Noah, but the divine vibe is a bit different this time. Instead of a majestic welcome, the goddess has gone full casual mode and looks way too chill for a divine being. Makoto can't help but judge the lack of grandeur, thinking the goddess should at least try to look decent for her only follower. Turns out she can hear every single word, and she is definitely not happy about the criticism. Moving past the shade, Makoto sincerely thanks her for the divine tip that led him straight to Sasa. Noah just plays it cool with a wink, happy that her revelation turned out to be such a fine encounter. The conversation shifts to power levels, and Noah reveals that Sasa's stats are actually up there with the legendary heroes. It seems like everyone from their old world is packing some serious heat in this new reality. But there's more to Sasa than just high numbers, as Noah hints at a massive secret hidden within her skill set. Our boy's curiosity is piqued instantly, even if he's trying to keep his expectations in check. Noah notes that the whole squad is leveling up, with even Lucy stepping her game up significantly. Feeling a bit left behind by his powerful teammates, Makoto can't help but feel like the weakest link in the group. The goddess isn't having any of that self-doubt, reminding him that stats are just numbers when you have elemental magic on your side. She tells him straight up that as long as he has a trump card to save his life, he is doing just fine. Noah has big plans and wants Makoto to play nice with the hero of light. Our boy is not too sure since the hero serves the very goddess she hates, but she just brushes it off like it is no big deal. She is playing the long game and straight up says the hero will be useful eventually. Makoto is a bit shook by how cold-blooded his goddess can be when it comes to power moves. Using a former classmate as a tool feels wrong to him, but Noah is not having any of that moral hesitation. She reminds him that the dude is basically a walking cheat code and the biggest VIP on the continent. To seal the deal, she plays the I found your girl card by reminding him she is the reason he reunited with Aya. Hard to argue with results, so he is left having to admit she has a point. She shuts down the whining and tells him to go make friends, leaving him to accept the mission. Looking at his squad of heavy hitters, he cannot help but feel like the only one in the group without a crazy power level. Just when he thinks the lecture is over, Noah drops so there is more on him. Even with his modest skills, he knows he has got to keep pushing forward if he wants to stay in the game. She tells him to stop stressing so much about everyone else and just take a breather. Apparently, even a divine being needs to kick back and let things slide every once in a while. Noah's rocking a casual off-shoulder look that has Makoto questioning the divine dress code. Wait, is that the reason behind your outfit? He asks, caught off guard by the chill style of the goddess. She wants him to live life on his own terms and stay true to himself. Did it help you relax a little? She asks, reaching out with a reassuring hand. A close-up shows him taking her words to heart as a jackpot popsicle stick appears. Noah is hyping him up, saying he has the strength to turn even the worst luck into a winning play. Feeling the love, Makoto gives a sincere thank you for the divine support. Noah just smiles back and tells him to take care as he heads back into the real world. Cut to the briefing where Makoto lays out the tactical play for the Harpy Nest raid. The plan is for Lucy to blast the ceiling while the rest of the squad prepares for a coordinated drop and surprise attack. Fujian is handling the logistics and reminds everyone not to forget their items. He is staying on the sidelines to collect the loot while the party handles the actual fighting. The forest at night is hitting different and the atmosphere is getting heavy. Geez, it sure is creepy to be near a dungeon at night. Lucy mutters just as a suspicious rustle comes from the leaves. Determined to avenge her sisters, Aya promises not to let a single harpy escape alive. Nearby, Fujian reminds the squad that since their targets are birds, they have the tactical advantage in the dark. Noticing how tense she is, Makoto places a reassuring hand on her shoulder. I get you are restless, he says, urging her to relax a bit before the fight starts. After a final group cheer, the team heads into the forest. They approach the entrance of the Labyrinth, hidden deep within the shadows of the trees. Stepping into the pitch-black woods, Lucy admits she is already worried about getting lost. She is stunned when Makoto reveals he spent 3 days scouting the path until he could walk it with his eyes shut. Not at all, it was fun, our boy says with a glowing smile. Lucy can only let out a heavy sigh and slink away, baffled by his obsession with the grind. For a veteran gamer, the detailed prep work is the best part of any boss fight. He is pumped up and ready to see the plan through. As a dense fog rolls through the trees, Lucy notes it will help them stay hidden from the harpies. Makoto casually mentions he had the elementals whip it up just for the mission. Makoto tries to act cool, but Lucy is losing her mind over his insane scouting grind. She is so weirded out that she literally starts slinking away. Strolling through the forest, Lucy admits she is getting a little nostalgic for their duo days. Makoto brings up the new party dynamic and asks if she and Aya are actually friends. They walk into the light as she says they are getting along well enough. He is curious to know what two girls from different worlds even talk about. Flashback to Aya having a religious experience over a town pie after living on dungeon scraps for years. Makoto wonders if their conversation moved past just food. Lucy mentions that Aya was giving her the full rundown on his life back in the old world. Makoto immediately hits the panic button, terrified of whatever stories were told. It turns out they just traded stories about him until both sides were caught up. He is confused why he was the only topic, but Lucy admits they both just wanted the tea. Feeling totally exposed, he tries to shake off the embarrassment as they reach the mission site. He tells Lucy to hold position while he gets ready to bait the harpy guards. Our boy spots the harpy guards through the thick trees. He triggers his calm mind skill to stay locked in as he prepares to cause some chaos. The guards hear a strange noise and start looking around, but it is already too late. Makoto lunges from the dark, driving his blade into the neck and heart of his target before they can scream. Using water magic, he stops the blood from soaking his clothes while he finishes the job. The harpy falls with a thud, leaving him with only one more guard to clear. A final powerful slash cuts through the last sentry. He stands calmly over the bodies as the first part of the mission wraps up. Wiping his blade, he signals that the path is clear. Lucy is floored that he wiped out the whole patrol in under 5 minutes. Checking his watch, he confirms the timing for the next phase of the plan. It is time for Lucy to start charging up her big guns. Ready to unleash some serious heat, Lucy prepares a massive spell to honor her promise to Aya. The nest is right in front of them, and she is about to go nuclear. Lucy goes into overkill mode, stacking a meteor rain on top of a stone shot to glass the area. Rocks and flames fall from the sky as she unleashes her promise. The nest is hit with a deafening blast, sending charred harpies tumbling into the lake. It is a clean sweep that wipes out the entire guard unit in seconds. Seeing the plan work perfectly, Nina and Sasa decide it is their turn to step in and mop up the mess. They are ready to dunk the survivors in the lake for the sea serpent. Our girls launch into combat, kicking and punching the winged pests into the water where the sea serpent is waiting for lunch. The synergy is terrifying as they clear the skies. Sasa is locked in with a look of pure vengeance. She is not letting a single one of these things survive after what they did to her family. As the smoke clears, the crew realizes the Harpy Queen is still missing. Just then, our boy floats down on a water lily leaf to regroup with the team. Makoto and Lucy touch down, but the mood is still tense since the big boss is nowhere to be seen. The search is still on. Lucy is feeling herself after that massive blast, hoping the boss is already toast, but Makoto is not buying it. He tries to warn her that they are not out of the woods yet when something cuts him off. A piercing screech rings out as his danger sense goes into overdrive. Something big is coming and his intuition is screaming at him to move. Our boy starts wobbling as the mental pressure hits him like a truck. The girls immediately freak out, seeing their leader suddenly lose his footing. Makoto points toward the ceiling as he realizes they are being watched from above. A chilling voice echoes through the cavern, mocking the party for the mess they made of her nest. The face-off continues deep in the cavern as the Harpy Queen reveals her cruel nature. She casually admits to using her own swarm as shields to survive that massive explosion, and Sasa is absolutely disgusted by the total lack of honor. Sasa fires back with some heavy trash talk, reminding the monster that her entire family of harpies was just turned into sea serpent food. She makes it clear that the queen is now the only target left on the board. The queen doesn't even care about her lost kin and turns her focus to Sasa, recognizing her as a survivor of the Lamia massacre. She decides it is time to fix that mistake and finish the extermination once and for all. Sasa grits her teeth because she knows the villain is actually making a solid point. If the leader stays alive, the threat will never truly vanish, so the head of the snake has to be cut off. Makoto steps up and narrows down the win condition for the entire squad. It is simple: if they manage to take her down right here, this whole harpy crisis is officially over. Our boy draws his blade while the queen just laughs at his confidence. She takes a massive breath, preparing a move that feels a lot more dangerous than a simple physical attack. Suddenly, the queen begins a haunting song that catches the party off guard. Nina realizes it is a forbidden siren technique meant to charm and brainwash any man who hears it, and she screams for Makoto to cover his ears before it is too late. Makoto slowly raises the blade to his own neck as the girls look on in horror. The queen commands him to press it against his throat, and his body obeys without hesitation. The villain laughs at their predicament, mocking the group for bringing a man into her domain. Nina realizes they might be too late to break the siren's spell. Sasa realizes that the mage who destroyed her family was just another puppet under this same influence. She glares at the queen, finally seeing through the trick behind her power. The queen orders him to walk toward her while threatening to make him finish the job if his friends move. Makoto wobbles forward, his voice shaking as he asks how she could do this. Lucy and Nina are frozen in place, knowing any intervention could be fatal. They are forced to watch as their friend walks right into the enemy's hands. Sasa keeps her eyes on him and notices something that doesn't quite add up. While the situation looks hopeless, she catches a glimpse of an expression that doesn't match a mindless puppet. Their eyes meet for a split second, and it definitely wasn't an accident. She wonders if he looked her way on purpose and if the charm is actually failing. Sasa catches a look in Makoto's eyes and realizes he's playing the queen for a fool. He is not under her control at all. Knowing her friend is still in there, she readies her claws for a follow-up. It is time to see if this gamble pays off. The queen is way too busy gloating to notice the shift in the air. She mocks Sasa for bringing a man to a monster fight, thinking his gender is a built-in weakness. She claims that every man she meets immediately starts worshipping her like a deity. The arrogance is off the charts as she looks down on the group. The villain laughs and demands that Makoto starts by licking her feet. While the girls scream in terror, our boy reaches out as if he is actually gonna do it. In a sudden blur of steel, Makoto slices through her leg and ruins her day. He calls her out on her delusions, stating that a goddess would never have such filthy feet. Pain erupts through the queen's body as Makoto signals for the final strike. Sasa realizes he just created the perfect opening, and it is finally time for payback. Sasa doesn't give the queen a single second to recover. She lunges forward with a scream, ready to finish this fight right now. Our boy steps in with a heavy slash that catches the queen off guard. He makes it clear that nobody touches his friend while he is standing there. The queen is bleeding out, but Sasa is not done yet. She stares down the monster that ruined her life with eyes full of pure rage. Memories of her lost family flood back as she prepares her final move. This strike is for her mother, her sisters, and every lamia that fell that day. She channels all her grief and anger into her fist. This is the moment she has been waiting for since the day her home was destroyed. Sasa delivers a brutal punch that goes right through the queen's chest. The impact is heavy enough to shake the entire cavern. Even with a hole in her body, the queen manages to stay upright and keep breathing. The rest of the party can only watch in shock as the villain refuses to drop dead. The queen's life is in Sasa's hands now. Even at the end, the monster can't help but talk trash about her own anatomy. No amount of begging is going to save her now. Sasa makes it clear that this is payback for every life the monster ruined. One final squeeze is all it takes to end the nightmare. The impact echoes through the cavern as the threat is neutralized. The adrenaline crash hits hard and Sasa's legs give out. She manages to whisper that she did it before the world goes dark. Our boy is right there to catch her before she hits the floor. He reassures her that the revenge is complete and she can rest. The weight of a lifetime of grief lifts as she leans into her friend. Those thorns in her heart are gone and she is free. Looting the remains turns up a purple shard that radiates a weird sense of peace. Nino is way more focused on the business side, noting how much money a rock that size will fetch. Nina realizes the shard might be magicite from Sasa's mother, which explains why it feels so peaceful to hold. Sasa is completely stunned by the news. Holding the last piece of her family, Sasa asks the group if she can keep it. Lucy and Nina are all for it, telling her that it belongs in her hands. The mood shifts when Nina asks the real questions, wondering how our boy managed to resist the Harpy Queen's charm. Sasa is just as curious. Makoto plays it cool, theorizing that his calm mind skill makes him immune to any mental gymnastics monsters try to pull. He is basically built different. Nina is not buying the humble act and calls it fishy while Lucy backs her up. Our MC just shrugs, claiming he is as clueless as they are. Sasa is not worried about the details and gives him all the credit for her successful revenge. Makoto is just relieved the plan actually worked out. Makoto starts to notice that Sasa has zero chill when it comes to personal space now. She is clinging to him like a lifeline, and he is definitely feeling the pressure. Sasa thinks back to the bus crash and her final moments in the old world. She realized way too late how much life she actually missed out on, and the regret hits hard. She is officially done playing it safe and plans to live her new life with zero regrets. Sasa basically glues herself to our boy, leaving him wondering what he did to deserve all this sudden attention. Lucy is not about to let this girl steal her man, and immediately steps in to break up the vibe. She claims they need to head back since the mission is over, but the jealousy is definitely clear. Our boy is left confused by the sudden tug-of-war between his party members. He is just starting to question the logic of it all when he notices a shift in the atmosphere. Nina is ready to head home until her rabbit ears suddenly twitch, signaling that danger is nearby. Our boy checks his scout skill and picks up a massive signal that confirms a major threat is lurking. After finally ending the Harpy Queen, Sasa holds onto the magicite shard that belonged to her mother. It is a heavy moment of closure for her as the dust finally settles on her revenge. She clings to our boy as the weight of the mission hits her, but the peace is short-lived. A huge new threat registers on Makoto's radar before they can even think about heading home. Makoto senses a group of people being jumped by monsters nearby and asks the squad if they are ready for one more round. The girls are all in since they trust his tactical judgment without question. Noah watches the whole thing from her divine realm like it is her favorite drama series. She is hyped to see what kind of crazy adventures her apostle is going to show her next. The group finds a cliff overlooking a desperate battle between some knights and a horde of monsters. It is a brutal disaster zone down there and the humans are clearly losing the numbers game. Lucy wants to drop a fireball and roast the area, but Makoto has to stop her before she fries the allies too. He needs a way to wipe out the monsters without turning the knights into charcoal. Our MC steps up and calls out to the local elementals to lend him a hand. He is about to show everyone why his unique brand of magic is a serious game changer. Out of nowhere, a massive water whale erupts from the earth and sends skeletons flying. The knights scramble in confusion as the tide completely shifts the battle in their favor. With the immediate threat gone, Sakurai and the mages confirm that their squad is still in one piece. They regroup at the cliff edge while the hero of light tries to figure out who dropped that legendary level spell. A voice calls out from behind, catching the hero off guard. Sakurai can hardly believe his eyes as our MC casually steps into view. When asked if he was the one who cast that whale spell, Makoto just shrugs it off and gives all the credit to the local elementals. The shock continues when Saki realizes that the girl with the group is actually their old classmate Aya. Sakurai quickly orders his men to stand down so they can process the fact that their long-lost friends are standing right in front of them. The two girls are hyped to find each other alive and start catching up instantly. Our boy watches from the sidelines, realizing for the first time that Sasa and the heroes group were actually close back in the old world. The vibe turns serious as Makoto asks how a top-tier squad like the Solil Knights got pushed to their limit by mid-level mobs. Sakurai reveals the real reason for the chaos, explaining that they were actually locked in a life or death struggle with the Blight Dragon. The dungeon vibe is already spiraling. A monster keeps camping underwater, and having to deal with two of them at once is making this fight a nightmare for the knights. It is a trap. The scout skill is pinging enemies left and right, and before they can even process the rumbling noise, their front line is getting tagged. Disaster zone. With the party on the brink of being wiped out, the order for a full retreat goes out as skeletons and dragons close in for the kill. Sakurai keeps it real about their disastrous run. They made it out alive, but the mission was a flop that left everyone drained. Lucy's jaw is on the floor when she hears the legendary White Grandsage is in the building. Meanwhile, Saki is throwing shade because the top-tier mage is just chilling in the back instead of carrying. This hooded figure is basically a god-tier celebrity in the magic world. Every mage wants to be them, but seeing the continent's strongest involved in a random hunt is suspicious. Our boy takes in the heavy atmosphere, realizing his old squad is seriously struggling. They are trying to stay independent, but the fear of catching another loss is written all over their faces. Our boy remembers some sketchy advice from his goddess. Noah had a villain smirk while telling him to get close to the hero of light because he would be useful later. Being her only follower, he decides to give her requests a shot. He hits the yes button on a prompt to save the hero without a second thought. Stepping forward, he asks if he can lend a hand. Sakurai looks desperate enough to try anything and asks if there is actually a plan. Our boy keeps it real, admitting he can't promise a win until he tries. Since the knights are out of options, Sakurai gives him the green light to take over. Not everyone is on board with this backup plan. Saki pulls the hero aside, pointing out that their old classmate has less mana than a random nobody. She keeps the trash talk going, bringing up his high school gaming habits. Sakurai tries to defend him by mentioning that spell from earlier, but she is not having it. Saki remains skeptical, convinced he does not have the juice to pull off another miracle. Meanwhile, our MC gets ready to head out and prove her wrong. Sakurai respects the mana vision of Saki, but he is putting all his chips on his friend's performance. The hero stands firm, certain that his old classmate has what it takes to handle the heat. Saki is losing her mind, wondering where this sudden confidence is coming from when the stats say otherwise. Our MC takes control of the situation, ordering Lucy and Nina to hold back while Sasa leads the charge. Despite the team having major anxiety, they finally commit to the mission and dive deeper into the cave. The squad reaches the lower floor, a massive cavern where the dragons stay submerged in a giant lake. Sakurai breaks down the struggle, explaining how the enemies use the water to retreat and avoid a direct fight. Our boy asks if pulling the dragons outside would make them easier to beat. Sakurai doesn't hesitate, saying his hero of light skill is a guaranteed win in the sunlight. Makoto decides he is going to drag them out of the water himself. Nina is ready to see him cook, but Saki is still in the back talking trash. He casually mentions he will just ask the local elementals for a hand. Sakurai and Saki are stunned he can even see them, while Nina is just happy to see her friend getting the respect he deserves. Approaching the cavern falls, Makoto starts talking to the air like it is a casual group chat. Saki thinks it is all a big act since she has never even seen an elemental user before. Makoto gives the spirits the go-ahead to start the operation. Saki is still waiting for him to fail, but the vibe in the cave is starting to feel heavy. A massive shockwave suddenly slams into the area with a deafening sound. Saki is caught in the middle of it, her eyes widening as the pressure builds. She begins to struggle for breath, feeling like a massive weight is physically pinning her down. The raw power coming off the elementals is more than she can handle. Sakurai is genuinely impressed by the elemental flex, asking if this is really what they can do. Takatsuki admits he is a bit surprised too, since he has never seen this many spirits show up for him at once. Mana starts swirling like a hurricane, yet everything stays eerily calm right where our MC is standing. He tells the squad to step back because this high-level spell is going to be a nightmare to control. Saki is losing her mind in the background, screaming that no human could handle that much raw energy. She watches in disbelief as the pressure continues to build. Sakurai tells her to just stay out of it and trust the process. Saki is left wondering how the hero can have so much faith in someone who seems so average on paper. The cave starts to rumble as the spell reaches its peak. Everyone watches with bated breath as the atmosphere turns heavy, signaling that the real show is about to start. A multi-headed serpent made of pure water erupts from the lake. The legendary Yamada no Orochi has arrived, and the scale of the magic leaves everyone speechless.
That's it for today, guys.
If you made it to the end, comment Goddess Plan so I know you're real ones. Don't forget to like and subscribe, it really helps the channel grow. Until then, keep on cooking.